Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Across from me are super producers James Briarton, Carlene Bragg. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Monday. Refreshed after a holiday weekend.
We're busy.
You guys are locked in. I see it in your eyes right now. You guys are locked in.
You're locked in.
Yeah, we have to be. It's been a lot going on, not only here in North Carolina, but in Texas, weather-wise. I mean, just tragic stuff that we've seen. Let's start in North Carolina because we got some new images right now. Let's take a look at this. This is in the Durham County area of North Carolina. So that's east of here, at least. But so this is a look at some of the damage. So this is what the folks there in Durham County, Chapel Hill, Orange County, Chatham County, they're dealing with right now. And this is remnants of Tropical Depression Chantal. So 80 people, and this is according, I want to read the information. This is coming from WRAL, their website. 80 people rescued from flooded homes near the Eno River in Durham County. First responders rescued dozens of residents from homes and apartments near the Eno River in Durham County this morning after a lot of rain caused the river to overflow there. Again, the Durham Fire Department says approximately 80 people were rescued by boat overnight and dozens evacuated from their homes after that relentless rain caused the Eno River to overflow. Now, the Eno River, that area, popular area. A lot of folks, I worked in that area for 3 years, that area being Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. A lot of folks like to go there to hike, to be along the river. You understand. So again, it's a very popular area, and we actually have a map of where that chopper is right now. So
yeah, if I push it in, Nick, we can actually track where the WREL helicopter is right now. So they're flying between Chapel Hill and Briar Chapel. Okay. And based on the location of their helicopter, they are over Lament Norwood Road. Okay.
So in that area, it gets pretty rural. So like I'm familiar. Again, I worked in the area for 3 years. I'm familiar with the names, but again, once it gets rural, especially if you guys know anything about North Carolina, once it gets rural, things sort of kind of blend together. Is this another?
This is tape playback from earlier. They have been flying all around, and they're obviously several lakes and rivers that got 12 plus inches of rain. So they're dealing with flash flooding immediately along where that rain was dumped, but also in the days ahead, Nick, where that rain is going to run off to. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich put up this map. If you want to walk us through it, you can see kind of how it shot that gap with some of those heavy rainfall amounts between Greensboro and Durham.
Yeah, this is the map that Brad posted on X. He posted this, this morning? Okay. I just had to check the time. It was hard to see the time, but you can see there it says #Chantal left a narrow path of intense rainfall into central North Carolina. A few spots saw 10 to 12 inches of rainfall in a single day. The purple areas represent 50 to 100 year rainfall events for a 24-hour period. I honestly, working there, I've never experienced anything like this. So again, seeing this is just it just boggles my mind as somebody who spent a few years there, still have friends there. I'm reading this too from WRAL's website. The Eno River, which began to rise about 9:30 p.m., the river rose 22 feet in 4 hours.
Wow.
To
people
record
are sleeping.
flood. Yeah, that is. I mean, it's beating out the river levels from Hurricane Fran back in 1996. I understand there's a generation of people that don't remember Hurricane Fran from the late 90s, mid to late 90s, but that just gives you some perspective if you're watching. And again, this is, it looks like that video went out, but that is what the folks are dealing with there. If I slide over to Chatham County, I want to make sure I update you guys on what's happening. And Chatham County is neighbors that area too, still within the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. And so here's the latest. So a woman, as of 11:15 a.m., so about an hour before we got on the stream, a woman, WRL was able to confirm a woman died in floodwaters Sunday night around 11:30 p.m. The State Highway Patrol was able to confirm. She's from Pittsburgh, which is in Chatham County, when her car became submerged in water on Farrington Point Road near Hinton Road in Chatham County. So that's the conditions there right now. Again, a very, very scary situation. Again, I have friends text me videos of inside the Trader Joe's. You guys are telling me Kohl's saw some water inside, but a situation that again is historic and folks haven't seen there in a while.
And unfortunately, not the only situation related to flash flooding across the United States.
Texas, I believe we have. Do we want to go to this? So this is coverage from our content partners there in Austin, Texas. Again, you've probably seen it all over our newscasts, our streaming. We've been talking about it, but the search continues for victims today after flash floods in Central Texas killed at least 82 people over the 4th of July holiday weekend and left others who are still missing. So this is coverage from our Austin Texas affiliate, or I should say content partners there in Austin, Texas. They are doing continuous coverage on the situation there. Let's take a listen in. Let's dip in to see what they are talking about right now.
At least the eastern half, where we still have some pretty steady downpours and rainfall rates right now ranging from 1 to 2 inches per hour. Again, elsewhere not too bad across the metro area, but we will continue to watch for these additional rounds of showers and storms. It is not going to take much today to get additional isolated flash flooding going, just because of how saturated and soaked our soils really are. Flood watch in effect through 7 p.m. today. Rain chances, they remain elevated as we head into Tuesday, with some additional showers and storms possible on Wednesday. I think we finally should start to dry things out towards the second half of the week, which of course I will have more on and much more in terms of live radar updates coming up in a bit.
Not the forecast we want today, but with that, more rain on the way and the risk of life-threatening flooding still high in Central Texas. ABC's Jacqueline Lee is in Kerrville with a debrief on the conditions.
All right, so we wanted to pop out of that coverage. Again, that is... They have continuous coverage there, not only there in Austin, but our content partners in Dallas and Houston. All of our stations there continuing to cover what is happening there in Texas. Is this still North Carolina video here?
This is back to North Carolina.
Okay. So again, as you mentioned, so we're dealing with the flooding here in central North Carolina, and also dealing with that flooding, that devastating flooding in Texas. Honestly, just hard to look at, hard to report on. Hard to see some of these updates. Again, over in Texas, and again, you're looking at the remnants of Tropical Depression Chantal. 12 plus inches of rain in North Carolina.
And some of that falling just a mere few hours.
Oh, man. So that's the situation there. We have meteorologist Becca Birdsall here. I popped my camera up instead of popping Becca. See, this is Monday for us. How are you doing, Becca?
I'm doing good, back after a long weekend. A lot of weather to talk about for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we're just talking about the flooding in Texas, the flooding in central North Carolina. It's just a lot to take in.
Wild weather weekend for sure. And we've got more unsettled days ahead, rinse and repeat cycle, and the potential for localized flooding too as we head later on this week.
On top of that, it's hot again. Really hot again.
You know what? We broke our streak yesterday of our high temperatures, 90 degrees or above. We actually reached day 17. And yesterday, with our high of 86, we broke the streak. But now we're back up to 90 already. So our streak only continues out there. And we've got a hot week ahead. As we take a look from our downtown Monroe camera, courtesy of Mr. Sparky, you can see nothing but sunshine, and those temperatures are responding to that sunshine. Checking in on what is now post-tropical storm Chantal, that is bringing lots of rainfall over towards portions of Washington, D.C., up towards Baltimore, Maryland, and portions of Northern Virginia as well. Now, this is weakening out as it continues to drift up to the north, but looking back at some of the estimated rainfall totals, especially east of Charlotte, in between Greensboro, Raleigh, 10 to 12 inches of rainfall within that area. That was the area that saw that significant flooding. Over towards Southern Pines, that's 6 to 7 inches. And when we have these rain chances in the forecast over the next several days, those are going to be the areas in great concern and the greatest possibility to see flooding over the week ahead. So satellite radar, we are completely dry here in the Charlotte area. The only impact that we will see from Chantal is going to be these alongside the Carolina coast, where we do have that moderate to high rip current risk, and that is something that will improve over the next several days. For today, rain chances are pretty low, only about a 20% chance of a shower or a storm pretty much at any point during the day. Most locations will stay dry. The much bigger weather story for today will be the heat. That 24-hour temperature change showing the story out there, anywhere from 10, 16, 17 degrees warmer than this time yesterday, especially for our most eastern counties who did get those soakers. Outside now, like I mentioned, we've already hit 90. We're up to 93 in Cheraw and Lancaster, 90 in Salisbury, and 91 over in Statesville, 82 in Boone. This is what we feel like, you guys. Feeling like 100 in Morganton, feeling like 101 in Cheraw, 95 in Charlotte, and 99 over towards Lancaster. For today, peak heat index value will be close to that triple-digit mark and will continue through the 5-6 o'clock hour. For tomorrow, this is where we can see that dangerous heat start to build in with those peak heat index values close to 103. And a heat advisory does get issued when those heat index values are supposed to be between 105 to 109. I don't know if the Charlotte area will be encompassed under this tomorrow, but I do think some of our counties, especially across the Carolinas, could be added to this. But a good reminder just to hydrate and definitely take care of yourself. Like I mentioned yesterday, we broke that streak of 90-degree plus days. And actually, as we look at the last 10 years, 17 days, it actually ranks in the top 3. And we are starting over completely. Today's 90-degree already. We'll already add 1 to that. And we've got several more to add, with well above average temperatures over the next several days, starting to get closer to average as we approach middle to end of the work week as rain chances increase as well. You'll notice those peak heat index values also start to feel more like the upper 90s as we approach your Thursday and Friday. Rain chances will be peaking Wednesday and Thursday, and our setup is going to be this stationary front. That's what's going to bring those rounds of showers and storms. So for today, coverage is not much. Isolated shower or storm, but most locations stay dry. Once we lose that daytime heating, rain chances fizzle out. We'll do it all again for tomorrow as well. Typical summer-like pattern. Once we get into Wednesday, though, it's looking much more active in terms of the potential of strong storms, but also just more in coverage. This is going to be more widespread, and I think this is also where we could have more of the slow-moving downpours that just rains for a period of time, and that could dump a lot of heavy downpours. So this is what I mean. Futurecast rainfall is all over the place, but where the heaviest downpours set up, that's where I think we could pick up 1 to 3 inches of rainfall between now and Wednesday night. Again, not everybody will be seeing that. Some locations may only get a little bit of rain, but that is what we got to be on guard for as well. Got to show you the worst case scenario, which is why Wednesday we are all under that low excessive rainfall impacts for localized flooding as well. I think we'll also be encompassed under this Thursday and Friday as we continue to see those rain chances stay high as well. So 7-day forecast today, the heat, the humidity, that's going to be the big story for today. It is once again back in control, even hotter for Tuesday with those peak heat index values close to 103. Wednesday and Thursday brings the best chance for heavy rain and thunderstorms that could also lead to localized flooding. We'll carry those rain chances pretty much all the way through the end of the work week before heating right back up towards this weekend.
Oh, we started all over again with the countdown. 17 days.
Did. You know, we were going on a long run there. So
it felt great
it
yesterday.
Did. No complaints.
And then I was like, what happened?
Yeah, you know, the Charlotte area really did not have any impacts from this tropical storm. It much further impacts east of Charlotte for sure.
Yeah, I was in the High Point, Greensboro area yesterday, so I started seeing some of that. They got mostly light rain, nothing terribly heavy from when I was there yesterday afternoon, evening. But it definitely coming back to Charlotte. I'm like, man, if this can stay like this for the rest of the summer, I know that's not realistic. I would be fine, but again, it's not realistic.
Was it a Nick pick? Was yesterday?
Yesterday was definitely for Charlotte for Charlotte a Nick pick. Today, you know what? Let's make it a pick. Let's make it a pick. Let's make it a pick. I got peer
Lock it in.
I got peer pressure by Carlene.
3 eyes staring at you.
It's not bad. It's warmer than yesterday.
Sounds like peer pressure to me.
Lots of sun, you know.
Becca, thank you for your time.
Of course.
All right. So that is the weather right here. We're going to continue to follow this. When I mean this, I'm talking about the flooding not only in central North Carolina, but also Texas. So there was a press conference earlier, just to give you an update on what officials in Kerr County, along with Senator Ted Cruz and other state officials, were able to give us. And I believe, was it Governor Abbott at the press conference as well? Do we know that for sure?
I don't recall seeing him at the 11 a.m. Eastern.
Ted Cruz was there.
Ted Cruz, okay. So as of right now, make sure. Let me refresh. I want to make sure to get you the most up to date, because there's so much information that's coming in. So flash floods in central Texas have killed at least 82 people and left 41 missing as search efforts continue today. Again, there was a press conference before we got on to the stream. This is video, a compilation of video of what it looks like there on the ground. Just a tragic situation unfolding there in Texas. Let's take you to that press conference in case you missed it. There's a lot of valuable updates from officials. Let's take a listen in.
Y'all ready? Okay, this will be our July 7th, 10 a.m. Briefing. Search and rescue operations are ongoing throughout Kerr County. We're using assets from local, state, and national first responders. Hundreds of trained first responders are working every aspect of this emergency. As of 8:30 this morning, we recovered 75 deceased bodies here in Kerr County, including 48 adults and 27 children. Of this 48 adults and 27 children, 15 adults and 9 children are pending identification. At present, there are 10 campers from Camp Mystic unaccounted for and 1 killer. We continue to offer our condolences to those affected. Reuniting the families remain our top priority here on this operation. Please note that Highway 39 of an Old Ingram Loop remains closed to the public. Other than those who live in that area would not be allowed out there. I will now turn it over to Senator Cruz. City Manager Dalton Rice.
Good morning, Dalton Rice, the city manager for the city of Kerrville. As everybody knows, we are working in conjunction with the city under a unified command response and again, a lot of devastation. Our hearts go out to the families and the victims. We want to continue to work together as a community. We love the media support on this to be able to communicate that message, communicate family, communicate togetherness, and we really appreciate all the support and helping us be able to do that. Search and rescue, as the sheriff said, search and rescue operations will continue today from Hunt in North Kerr County all the way to Canyon Lake in Comal County. Now, we're only focused on the Kerr County side, but we wanted to talk about that because for a linear from Hunt all the way to Comal County in a straight line distance is over 100 kilometers. This is a massive field that is happening, and again, this is unprecedented flood events. So we are still currently in the primary search phase, which is the rapid one. They are running it, we have different segments that are gridded out. Each one of those segments are taking anywhere between an hour to 3 hours, up to 2 kilometers for each segment. So what that means is they're running into a lot of technical challenges with terrain, with water, even potentially, with weather, in the rising fields. We've talked about this before. Volunteers stay out of the way because if we start getting weather reports and all the other complications that are out there, we then have to pull off of those search and rescue missions to be able to communicate to those volunteers to get off, to make sure that they don't become victims themselves. Those operations involve 19 different local and state agencies, in addition to conducting primary and secondary searches. They will be conducting welfare checks on areas in North Kerr County impacted by power outages. And when we say search and rescue operations, that is boat, walking, on the ground, dogs, drones. Again, keep personal drones out of the air. Helicopters. We do have other assets that are continuing the search as well. As of present, KPUB, which is the Kerrville Public Utility Board, is reporting continued power outages between Hunt and Ingram along the South Fork of the Guadalupe River in Hunt. In the South Fork area, there are approximately 40 down power lines and significant infrastructure damage. KPUB has brought in additional utility personnel to help with restoration, but it's not possible at this time when the power is going to be restored. There are some substations along with those power lines that we are still trying to get access to just from debris buildup or them being completely wiped out. So we do not have an estimated time on when those are going to be fixed. We continue to have substantial number of requests for volunteers, as I said before, and donation opportunities. We are asking those who want to volunteer to contact the Salvation Army in Kerrville by phone at 830-465-4797 or in person at 855 Hayes Street in Kerrville. Monetary donations can be made on the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country's website at www.communityfoundation.net. Fund set up on that site. And I will now turn it over to the Mayor, Joe Herring.
Thank you for being here. I need to tell my community and those families who are waiting, this will be a rough week. Primary search continues, and we remain hopeful every foot, every mile, every bend of the river. Our work continues. You need to know that we have been blessed with help from the community, from the state, and the nation. We have trained experts who are helping in this effort. If you want to volunteer, it is important that you contact Kerrville Salvation Army and register. Dalton gave that number, but I'm going to give it again. 830-465-4797. We need focused and coordinated volunteers, not random people just showing up and doing what they do. We need to work together. As Dalton said, donations have been flowing in from around the world to the Community Foundation. Again, that website is communityfoundation.net. Please follow the City of Kerrville's Facebook page for updates. They're accurate. We take a lot of time to make sure we send out information that will be helpful, not only to residents, but to those who are visiting. I've said this 100 times, and I will say it again. We need your prayers. We need your prayers. Thank you. And now, Senator Ted Cruz.
Texas is grieving right now. The pain, the shock of what has transpired these last few days has broken the heart of our state. As of yesterday, the confirmed death toll was 82, and those numbers are continuing to go up. The children, the little girls who were lost at Camp Mystic, that's every parent's nightmare. Every mom and dad. Last week, we were picking up our daughter from camp here in Hunt. Our girls have gone to camp here for a decade. The Hill Country is an incredible part of Texas, part of the country. The natural beauty here is incredible. The camps that have raised generations of little girls and little boys and instilled character and love and faith are extraordinary institutions. And I'll tell you, the pain in our state, and it's every part of the state. You've got Texans from all over the state who were here celebrating the 4th of July. A week ago, this was a time of great celebration. You're dropping your little girl off at camp, your little boy off at camp. You're celebrating Independence Day. You know that your child is going to be swimming and canoes and horseback riding and doing archery and making lifetime friends. And then suddenly it turns to tragedy. For the last several days, I've spoken to multiple parents, scared out of their mind. Do you know anything? Where is my daughter? There's still 10 girls and 1 counselor from Camp Mystic that are unaccounted for. And the pain and agony of not knowing your child's whereabouts, it's the worst thing imaginable. But I want to say, in the face of all of this, it is simultaneously inspiring. Every time there's a tragedy, every time there's a natural disaster in Texas, Texans come together. Texas is a big state. We've got 31 million people, and we have hurricanes, we have tornadoes, we have wildfires. Tragedies hit this state, natural disasters hit this state, and without fail, 100 out of 100 times when that happens, we see Texans coming together, helping each other, engaging in acts of heroism. There have been over 850 high water rescues since this flooding began. 850. You look at extraordinary stories of Eagle Scouts pulling campers out of harm's way. I was just hearing a story of one counselor whose head was right at the water holding up 2 mattresses with campers on those mattresses. That kind of courage, that kind of selflessness. And then there are the first responders. The local first responders. I want to thank every one of the first responders at the local level, at the city level, at the county level, at the state level, at the federal level. In the first few hours of this flood, I was on the phone with Governor Abbott. I was on the phone with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I was on the phone with Nim Kidd, the head of the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And then I called President Trump. I called President Trump. He was having dinner at the time. It was still early in what was transpiring. And I wanted him to know, I said, Mr. President, everything we're hearing right now, this appears to be bad, really bad. There may be a very significant loss of life unfolding right now in Texas. And I will tell you, the president said, Ted, anything Texas needs, the answer is yes. Whatever assets you need, whatever resources you need, yes, let us know, and we will provide everything. Within hours, we had helicopters, over a dozen helicopters in the air. National Guard, DPS, game wardens, Coast Guard, doing search and rescue, reaching down. We've all seen the videos of little girls being pulled up, hoisted out of harm's way. Incredible courage and heroism. Search and rescue is the first stage, but the process of coming together and rebuilding is going to take longer. And I will say to all the grieving families, to all of those who've gotten the worst news imaginable, that your little girl, she's gone. I will say for many of us, those are friends and neighbors who've lost children. Got multiple kids who go to school with my girls. The mayor asked for prayers. And I want to say thank you to the millions of Texans, to the millions of Americans, to the millions of people all over the world right now who are praying for Texas and praying for those parents. Going through this grief, it is going to take love, it is going to take friends and family embracing and hugging and holding them while they weep. And it's going to take the church. With every disaster, one of the things we see here in Texas is the church steps up and the church helps and the church feeds and clothes and comforts. This morning I met with a group of chaplains who've been going through the incredibly difficult process of talking to mom and dad after mom and dad who just lost the most precious person they ever knew. And those chaplains are just trying to love them and show God's love. So I want to say we will come through this. To those in the midst of grief right now, that might seem hard to fathom. But Texas will come through this. And I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to these gentlemen here who are working. They are not sleeping. They are working every day. Thank you to the families. Thank you to the Salvation Army. Thank you to everyone who is just reaching out and saying, how can I help? We will come through this, and we'll come through this together. Thank you.
And that is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. I want to point out something else that he said, James, and I got it from AP News, but okay. Senator Ted Cruz says he picked up his daughter from a camp in that area impacted just a week ago. He went on to say the situation in Kerr County is, quote, every parent's nightmare. Quote, the pain and agony of not knowing your children's whereabouts is the worst thing imaginable. Again, he said this at the press conference. In case you heard that or may have missed that, but again, that is Texas Senator Ted Cruz at a press conference earlier in Kerr County, Texas. Again, that flood devastating that area. All right, so as we continue to keep an eye on the situation there in Texas, we want to come back home. We're following a story in Hickory. So right now, police are actively searching for a man accused of killing a 30-year-old woman inside a local motel. Our Jesse Pierre is following the story with the latest. So Jesse, catch us up. Where are you? What can you tell us?
So I am right outside of the hotel. This is the Deluxe Inn right over here, and it's located on Highway 70 Southwest. Now, Hickory police got a call around Friday evening about a woman who was unresponsive, and when they got here, they found 30-year-old Mary Irvin dead, and she had been shot. And again, this taking place at this hotel or motel that you see right over here. And right now, they are searching and working around the clock to find find James David Hauser. They have gotten a murder warrant for his arrest, and they're asking anyone with information, whether it's information on what happened here or information on his whereabouts, to contact police. Now, there are still so many questions, right? You know, it's not clear what happened, what led to the shooting, what caused, if there was any argument or anything that happened before, the relationship between the two. But I do know this shooting or her death has been devastating for loved ones and this community. Nick?
And Jesse, you mentioned the victim, Mary. Did you get a chance to speak with any of her friends or loved ones? How are they dealing with all of this?
You know, I got a chance to speak to her sister, her brother, as well as like a really close friend, childhood friend, and they are just devastated. They say that Mary, you know, she's had some challenges for the last several years, whether it was mental health or substance abuse, but they say that she was a mother. She also was a person they described could light up any room with her smile, and right now, you know, they have her 4 kids to worry about. She has 4 kids between the ages of 2 and 13. 2 of them are in her sister's care, Tammy, who I also spoke to, and I'll have her interview for the later shows tonight. But, you know, she's hurting and she's taking care of her children, but she says that there is a level of peace to know her sister is not suffering at this point, and that they're just trying to stay strong for her and her family. But they say that she had her sister, Mary, had a heart of gold and is someone that they're going to desperately miss.
That is Jesse Pierre live in Hickory with updates on the search for a murder suspect there in Hickory. Jesse, thank you for your time. Again, you can catch Jesse during our evening newscasts, and you can just stay here on WCNT Plus for those latest updates, not only on Jesse's story, but all the stories that we're following today. All right, so let's get back now to Texas. Again, we had a news conference earlier with state and local officials in Kerr County, Texas. And look, those flash floods in Texas killed at least, AP News is reporting, 89 people over the 4th of July holiday weekend. That number keeps rising. And it's still the number of people missing still relatively unknown, including girls attending a summer camp in that area impacted. That devastation along the Guadalupe River outside of San Antonio has drawn a massive search effort as officials also face questions over the preparedness and the speed of their initial actions. Again, we played a little bit of this, or a good chunk of this, I should say, before Jesse's live hit there in Hickory. Do we want to go to the press conference, or do we want to go to something else?
I just noticed a live report from our content partners in San Antonio.
Okay, let's send it over there. Let's go, instead of going back to the press conference, send it over to San Antonio. Let's take a listen in.
Start to get up, and as I swing my feet over the side of the bed, I realized I was standing in water.
With the water rushing in from the Guadalupe River, Christian Fell found himself scrambling to survive on Friday morning.
I was trying to climb onto that piece of furniture right there, but I couldn't climb onto it because it just kept tumbling and rotating under the water, so I couldn't make it onto the air mattress. So then I realized the window was broken, so I swam through the window, and I was standing on that meter box right there for the next 3 hours.
Balancing on his tiptoes, alone, his family staying at another spot down the road.
I was just standing on the top of it. I was holding on to the with my arm inside one of the slats in the roof for a couple hours, like 3 hours.
Help just a short distance away as he could see flashing police lights.
I noticed I could finally climb down whenever there was a police officer walking through the street right here with his flashlight. So I just hopped down, and that was the end of it.
For his mom, Andi, reuniting with her son.
How did you feel when you finally got the call that he's okay?
There's no words.
As for Christian,
I'm just happy to be here. Just excited to go home, go back to work. I guess I don't really know.
Rania Court, KENS 5.
If you are still looking for a camper, the City of Kerrville Emergency Management has established a reunification intake line for parents. That number is 830-258-1111. Call that number with the name of your camper and you'll be directed to a shelter. For all other missing persons, officials ask you to call 830-257-8181. All right, let's take a live look on our map now at traffic on this afternoon. It's looking green across the city of San Antonio. I did see an accident pop up not too long ago along US 90, the frontage road east at Couples, but other than that, smooth sailing. Let's take a live look at a few cameras. Now, I-37 at Houston running good, as well as Wurzbach at US 281. I'll keep my eyes on the roads, but for now, we'll still have a lot more here on KENS 5, like this story, helping our neighbors, the volunteers stepping up to assist flood victims, and the donations coming in by the truckload.
Victims of mess. All right, so that was some of the coverage that we wanted to bring you from out of the San Antonio, Texas area as they continue. Again, a lot of our content partners, if not all of our content partners in the state of Texas, following this tragic story there as the death total continues to rise. There's still an unknown number of people that officials are still looking for. So we want to get back to that press conference I mentioned earlier. We left off with Senator Ted Cruz. Let's hear more from Senator Ted Cruz as he starts to wrap up. This is from earlier, I want to mention, and also let's hear from other officials there in Kerr County, Texas. So let's take a listen in.
Say, in the wake of every tragedy, there are things that are predictable. One of the things that's predictable is that you see some people engaging in, I think, partisan games and trying to blame their political opponents for a natural disaster. And you see that with a hurricane, with a tornado, with a wildfire, with this flooding, where people immediately say, well, the hurricane is Donald Trump's fault. Look, that, I think most normal Americans know that's ridiculous. And I think this is not a time for partisan finger pointing and attacks. Now, after we come through search and rescue, after we come through the process of rebuilding, there will naturally be a period of retrospection where you look back and say, okay, what exactly transpired? What was the timeline? And what could have been done differently to prevent this loss of life? And that's a natural process. I think it should not happen in a bitter and partisan sense, but it should happen in a reasonable sense of saying, what lessons can we learn? And I will give an example. Houston's my hometown. If you live on the Gulf Coast, we get hurricanes. That's part of living on the Gulf Coast as hurricanes hit. And I do think Texas as a whole has learned over time how to deal more effectively with hurricanes. And so you look here, we know the National Weather Service put out an emergency warning just after 1 a.m. and a second emergency warning just after 4 a.m. Now, obviously, most people at 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. are asleep. And so I think we will have a reasonable conversation about, are there any ways to have earlier detection? And some of that, the limits of a flash flood, they're very difficult because they can arise so quickly. But everyone would agree in hindsight, if we could go back and do it again, we would evacuate particularly those in the most vulnerable areas, the young children in the cabins closest to the water. We would remove them and get them to higher ground if we could go back and do it again. Obviously, everyone would. The people in RVs by the river's edge. We know in disasters like this, RVs and mobile homes are particularly susceptible, whether a flood or a hurricane or a tornado, they're particularly susceptible to that. And so my hope is, in time, we will learn some lessons to implement to next time, and there will be another flood, there will be another disaster. But next time there's a flood, I hope we have in place processes to remove especially the most vulnerable from harm's way. But I think that's going to be a process that will take a careful examination of what happened and how can we implement processes better in the future to prevent this same loss of life.
Senator, there were claims that the National Weather Service sent that first flash flood warning that should have alerted phones at 1:14 in the morning But we have a federal public database maintained by PBS Warren, that says the first emergency alert wirelessly here in this area to Kerr County was not until after 9 a.m. That was more than 4 hours after the severe flooding had come to this area. Did you know that? Have you seen that? And what's your response, knowing the state and cuts to the NWS in recent months by this administration?
So I don't know the source for what you're saying. All of the public reporting I've seen is that there were 2 alerts that went out, one just after 1 a.m., one after 4 a.m. You know, I can tell you, I talked about the partisan finger pointing. I think there have been some eager to point at the National Weather Service and say cuts there led to a lack of warning. I think that's contradicted by the facts. And if you look at the facts in particular, number one, that these warnings went out hours before the flood became a true emergency level. But number two, the National Weather Service here, New Braunfels is where they were headquartered. They had additional manpower. In fact, they had 3 additional people working that night, anticipating that it was going to be a very dangerous weather situation. I also think it's worth noting that the National Weather Service Union, which has been very critical of the DOGE cuts, has publicly said that they don't believe that the reduction in staffing had any impact whatsoever on their ability to warn of this event. And so, look, I think it is reasonable over time to engage in a retrospective and say at every level what could have been done better, because all of us would want to prevent this horrific loss of life. But I think just immediately trying to use it for either side to attack their political opponents, I think that's cynical and not the right approach, particularly at a time when we're dealing with a crisis and we're dealing with grief.
But does this make you question whether there should be cuts at the National Weather Service and FEMA? I know you've been supportive of FEMA.
Look, I am very supportive of FEMA. I'm very supportive of the National Weather Service. They both perform essential roles, and I think it is critical at every federal agency, particularly when you're dealing with public safety, that we make sure that critical roles are maintained. That's a longer and broader discussion, but as I said, everything from the public evidence indicates that was not a contributing factor to what occurred here.
Is it possible to get Dalton in just to talk about that and what the National Weather Service alerts? Because there were escalating forecasts throughout the day from the National Weather Service. What did the emergency managers of the county and other local officials do with that information, starting at 1:15 and onward, where you have the dire river forecast at 6:30? Were emergency managers doing anything to put any processes in place to warn people on the river?
So overall, we were preparing for the July 4th, weekend. So we had National EMR on site. We were, basically stood up kind of an incident command post, if you will, to prepare for that event. So everybody was kind of up looking at weather. We looked at the weather before. When you looked at the National Weather Service, flood map, it spanned all the way from the west side of Texas, with Kerr County kind of being in that upper northeast corner of it. And so everybody, including the National Weather Service, was looking at where's the rain going to hit. We know it's somewhere in here, but with rain, especially when you're dealing with terrain, you got to figure out. Sometimes you don't know until it falls. So once it starts falling, then you got to figure out, okay, how's the watershed going to do this? How's the science going to work? And when you had that north and south fork that we had talked about before, it all converged into one. We do know that a lot of the camps were looking at this just as much as as everybody was. With the rainfall percentages, even the National Weather Service had looked at, and don't quote me on the numbers, but it's anywhere between 1 to 7 inches. We got significantly over that. And again, when it goes into very congregated areas and how that watershed shifts into the rivers, that impacts things. And so the camps, obviously, we've heard stories where campers were getting up. They were up at 3:30 in the morning. They were trying to move to higher ground. That's and the other interesting part of the terrain, and we've talked to UGRA folks as well. This is the headwaters of the Guadalupe. This is the beginning. This is where everything forms when it comes into the North and South Fork. And so as those things develop, it develops very rapidly, very quickly, and this rose very quickly in a very short amount of time. And so those campers that were able to do that, it worked. There's been the other question, and I'll just give this one out. Evacuations. Well, why don't we evacuate? Well, evacuation is a delicate balance, because if you evacuate too late, you then risk putting buses, or cars or vehicles or campers on roads into low water areas trying to get them out, which then can make it even more challenging, because these flash floods happen very quickly. That's what.
And certainly we saw that in 1987, but was there any discussion to evacuate earlier, but when it wasn't too late? Was there any discussion about that among the officials?
Sorry, repeat your question.
Was there any discussion to evacuate or activate any emergency plans before it was too late, where it would be very dangerous like that?
Well, so again, just like disasters in Texas everywhere, it's very tough to make those calls, because what we also don't want to do is cry wolf. We don't want to make sure that we activate it at the right time. It is very difficult, very challenging, especially with this. We're looking at 100 kilometers, right? That's a big straight line distance. That's not even along the river. These areas take a lot of time to get out to. So even when first responders were on the ground at 3:30 in the morning and we had reports, we had first responders that were getting swept away, actually responding to the first areas of rainfall. That's how quick it happened. First responders who have experience, who are swift water qualified, were driving to as soon as the rain started falling, were driving to these areas, and one of them got swept off the road.
So one last question, everybody, one last question.
Between 1 and 4 a.m. from local law enforcement saying, I know you can't get buses in an hour, but was there anyone telling the camp between 1 and 4 a.m. you need to get the girls to higher ground, at the very least, even if they have to walk up there in the rain, as many of them actually ended up doing? Was there any communication from local law enforcement to anyone at that camp between 1 and 4 a.m.?
That I don't know off the top of my head. What I do know, though, is there's 55,000 people in Kirk County. Kirk County is a massive, massive area. From here to those camps is 45 minutes on a good day. And so, obviously one of the big challenges that we have, even when you have cell service, a lot of those areas don't even have cell service. Radio communications towers, radio towers within the hill country becomes very challenging. So there's a lot of areas, especially when weather comes in, where cellular towers are down or you already have bad service. So there's a lot of factors that play and a lot of variables in there on communication that, again, I think as we work through this process, we know everybody has a lot of questions regarding what are the next steps and what's next. And I think all of these things, these are all great questions. And as we continue search and rescue and as we continue to move to the next step, we definitely want to dive in and look at all of those things, from cell service tower to radio communications, or emergency alerting. Any of those things, I think we all really need to take a look at and review. Forward to doing that once we can get the search and rescue and stuff complete.
In regards to the total number, before I say anything else, I just want to say thank you to you, all the first responders, everyone involved. We've been praying.
Thank you.
We've been praying. The media's been praying. Thank you guys for doing that. I've got two questions. One for you, try to get an accurate count on number of missing. I know you can't. I know we don't know we don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
But do we know a rough idea on total estimates that are still missing overall throughout the county? And then one other follow-up. This may be for Senator Cruz. A lot of speculation is being made about this being somehow man involved with the weather modification, with some of the rainmaker technology, working with farmland. Do you think any of that, is there going to be any investigations into that, or can you communicate anything on that?
Let me answer your first question. I'm definitely turning that second one over to him. So on the first question, with missing persons, so obviously we have the knowns, the can't miss it kids, which is the numbers coming down as the sheriff has stated, and then we have the unknowns. But we don't know what we don't know. We actually have a 5 hotline line. It fluctuates between 3 and 5, but we're working on it. We get calls 24 hours, 7 days a week. We haven't hit the weeks yet, but we're still taking in calls. We are collecting all that information. So we don't have a solid number that we're willing to talk about right now. We do know that it is a lot, because we also are getting a lot of fake calls. You're looking. This is a worldwide discussion, and we're dealing with scammers. Victims' families are being reached out to, saying that they have their kids pay me money. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. We're dealing with with mental health issues, where people are calling saying they have visions. All of these things we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and we're having to vet this information, and it becomes very taxing on our people. Again, this is an extremely heartbreaking. This is, if not the worst, one of the worst, disasters in this region in a very, very long time, even beyond 1987. And so, but we're
best estimate, like dozens or hundreds, or just to give people an idea.
A lot. So, yeah, let me.
Yeah, there.
Not to get into the weeds on, people are asking lots of questions, and where should we start the investigation?
To the best of my knowledge, there is zero evidence of anything related to anything like weather modification. And look, the internet can be a strange place. People can come up with all sorts of crazy theories. What I know is a reality is that a whole lot of Texans are grieving right now. I will tell you, I was visiting with one parent who was talking about online, being harassed online because their information was public that they had a little girl who was missing at Mystic. And look, there are a lot of people who are messed up, and my call for everyone, there's a time to have political fights, there's a time to disagree. This is not that time. This is a time just to reach out, support each other, go volunteer at the Salvation Army, give them money, go volunteer at your church, you know what I did when this happened? Just go hug your kids. Because I got to tell you, I hugged my girls with tears in my eyes, because every one of us who's a parent, there but for the grace of God go I. And nothing will fill the void in these moms and dads' hearts, but they'll make it through it. And every one of us, we have an obligation to come through and help them make it through it. And look, Texas will come through. And let me say, Kirk County, the Hill Country is incredible. It is beautiful. And these summer camps, Camp Mystic is an incredible Texas institution.
All right, that's Texas Senator Ted Cruz from earlier, the press conference, giving us an update there on that tragedy, the ongoing flooding there in Texas. We want to shift now to what's happening live. This is what's happening live. This is the White House briefing there. That is Caroline Leavitt. And this White House briefing comes as President Donald Trump today placed a 25% tax on goods imported from Japan and South Korea, citing persistent trade imbalances with the two crucial U.S. allies in Asia. So let's listen in to what Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is saying right now. It just kicked off. Let's take a listen in.
Administration is working hand in glove with state and local officials to provide every assistance available. The situation on the ground remains dangerous, and there could be additional public safety threats with potential incoming heavy rain. So we encourage everyone in the area to remain vigilant, listen to all warnings, and respond accordingly. Unfortunately, in the wake of this once-in-a-generation natural disaster, we have seen many falsehoods pushed by Democrats such as Senator Chuck Schumer and some members of the media. Blaming President Trump for these floods is a depraved lie, and it serves no purpose during this time of national mourning. Here are the facts. In the lead up to this tragic natural disaster, the National Weather Service did its job. Despite unprecedented rainfall, the National Weather Service executed timely and precise forecasts and warnings. On July 3rd, the National Weather Service office in Austin, San Antonio, Texas, conducted forecast briefings for emergency management in the morning and issued a flood watch in the early afternoon. Flash flood warnings were also issued on the night of July 3rd and in the early morning of July 4th, giving preliminary lead times of more than 3 hours before flash flooding conditions occurred. And the National Weather Service office in New Braunfels, which delivers forecasts for Austin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas, had extra staff on duty during the storms, despite claims of the contrary. So to any person who has deliberately lied about these facts surrounding this catastrophic event, you should be deeply ashamed. At this time, the administration's focus will be giving the victims and their communities the support they deserve during these recovery efforts in this tragic time. May God bless the great people of Texas, especially the parents who have lost their children. President Trump loves you. We are praying for you, and he will be traveling to see you later this week. Moving along to some further scheduling announcements. Tonight, President Trump will host the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, for dinner, where they will discuss the positive developments taking place in the Middle East region. Tomorrow, the President will host his 6th cabinet meeting of his 2nd term. Many of you will be invited to cover that. And on Wednesday, the President will host leaders from 5 African nations for lunch in the state dining room. In other news, after the historic signing on the South Lawn of the White House on the 4th of July, President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill is now the law of the land. Republicans in Congress met the once-in-a-generation moment and codified the Make America Great Again agenda into law. After this monumental achievement, no other president in modern history has worked harder and faster to fulfill their campaign promises than Donald Trump. The One Big Beautiful Bill will get the United States of America firing again on all cylinders. It's safe to say that over the past few weeks, the president has delivered on many, many wins. For the 4th month in a row, jobs numbers beat market expectations with nearly 150,000 good jobs created in the month of June. The American economy has now added nearly 700,000 jobs since January 2025, with American-born workers accounting for all job gains. President Trump drove illegal border crossings to another historic low in the month of June, and Border Patrol once again released 0 illegal aliens into our country. The Supreme Court stopped activist judges from imposing nationwide injunctions and cleared the way for President Trump to carry out his popular and common sense agenda. The University of Pennsylvania agreed to all of the Trump administration's demands and will now keep men out of women's sports. President Trump secured his trade deal with Vietnam, giving the United States total access to their markets. Because of President Trump's unleashing American energy dominance, gas prices are at 4-year lows. And when adjusted for inflation, gas prices are near the lowest levels we've seen in the last 20 years. NATO members agreed to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP, a foreign policy feat long thought impossible until President Trump made it happen. The Operation Midnight Hammer obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities, taking out this imminent national security threat not just to the United States, but to the entire world. The president secured a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending the 12-day war. The president brokered a historic peace agreement between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Pakistan nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his decisive diplomatic intervention to prevent a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. Blue-collar wage growth has seen its largest increase in nearly 60 years, and President Trump has defeated Joe Biden's inflation crisis with core inflation at the lowest level since March of 2021. And just about all of that has happened in the last 3 weeks, and I know you all know it because you've been very busy here covering it along with us. So with that, I will take your questions today as we kick off another very busy week here at the White House. We'll lead with our new media seat, Brian Glenn, who is, of course, very present in this briefing room. He's put in a lot of hours covering this president, so we're glad you finally have a seat today. Brian, go ahead.
It feels great to sit down. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I want to go back to the hurricane. You said that President Trump is scheduled to go to Texas later this week. Can you speculate on what day and what he has plans?
Sure. The White House is currently arranging those travel plans. We hope that it will be later this week, likely on Friday, but of course we want to do it at the most appropriate time on the ground for state and local officials. We don't want to interrupt the recovery efforts, but we're planning tentatively for a Friday trip, and when that becomes final, we'll let all of you know, as we always do.
And you gave a little bit of reaction earlier, but the National Weather Service, the union, actually publicly stated they had an adequate staff on hand to forecast and predict the storm. You shared your thoughts earlier on how the way the left has really weaponized this to blame the deaths in Texas on Trump. I want to comment on that again.
Yeah, I just do think those comments are depraved and despicable, especially when so many Americans are mourning the loss of their children. The National Weather Service, as I said, did its job. Many experts, many meteorologists have said that. Many of you in the media, in all fairness, have said that as well. Unfortunately, not all. And many Democrat elected officials are trying to turn this into a political game, and it is not. This is a national tragedy, and the administration is treating it as such. We know the National Weather Service provided early and consistent warnings. They gave out timely flash flood alerts. There were record-breaking lead times in the lead up to this catastrophe. There is ongoing flood monitoring, and these offices were well staffed. In fact, one of the offices was actually overstaffed. They had more people than they need. So any claim to the contrary is completely false, and it's just sad that people are pushing these lies.
Can I just get one more?
Sure.
Kind of a little bit of breaking news. The Department of Homeland Security is moving to end the TPS status on Honduran and Nicaraguan migrants.
Yes.
Any plans to adding additional countries that you could be targeting? Just a reaction.
Sure. Well, I won't get ahead of the Department of Homeland Security on additional countries, but as you pointed out, they did end temporary protective status for Nicaraguans and Hondurans in this country because TPS, temporary protective status, is temporary by definition. It is not meant to be a permanent path to residency or citizenship here in the United States of America. It was originally granted to Nicaraguans following a natural disaster in 1999. That doesn't sound very temporary to me. And as well as Hondurans in 1999 after the impact of Hurricane Mitch in 1998. And so this administration is doing what it promised to do. And if individuals from these countries want to come here, they have a legal pathway to do it, but temporary protective status was never meant to be permanent. The previous administration abused this status and this parole program, essentially treating it as such, and we're not going to tolerate that any further. Thank you, Brian. Megan.
Secretary Bessent said yesterday that countries will boomerang back to the April 2nd tariff level starting August 1st. Why did the president decide to have those tariffs not take effect Wednesday as originally scheduled? And then I was also wondering if you could share, obviously we saw the letters the president sent out on Japan and South Korea, but if any other major U.S. trading partners are getting letters today.
Sure, yes, I can confirm. In fact, I have those letters. If you could get me the folder with the letters in them, Liz, they're right in the previous office. I have the signed letters that went out to both South Korea and Japan today, and there will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet, and that's what this administration continues to be focused on. The President will also sign an executive order today delaying the July 9th deadline to August 1st, so the reciprocal tariff rate or these new rates that will be provided in this correspondence to these foreign leaders will be going out the door within the next month, or deals will be made, and those countries continue to negotiate with the United States. We've seen a lot of positive developments in the right direction, but the administration, the President and his trade team want to cut the best deals for the American people and the American worker. That's what they're focused on, and in the effort of transparency, these letters will continue to be posted to Truth Social, so you can enjoy them yourself. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. Just about the visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu today, I was just wondering why that is not open to the press. Previous visits by him, we've had Oval Office press conferences. Does that reflect somehow the kind of sensitivity of this particular visit?
No, they're having a private dinner. There's many important matters that are obviously ongoing in the region, as you know. The utmost priority for the President right now in the Middle East is to end the war in Gaza and to return all of the hostages. Also, as you know, there was a ceasefire proposal that Israel supports that was sent to Hamas, and we hope that they will agree to this proposal. We want to see all of the hostages released. That's on the top of the President's mind, so that will be discussed, as well as the many other positive developments we've seen in the Middle East. I want to go back to the trade deals. As you see, we have these beautiful letters that the President has signed. This one is to the President of the Republic of Korea, original signature on that, and these will be mailed. And then here we also have another letter to the Prime Minister of Japan as well. Both countries will be receiving a 25% tariff rate effective on August 1st. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. You said it, and the President said it many times, you want to see an end to the war in Gaza. Will he give guarantees during this 60-day period of ceasefire that actually the war will end? Because this is a sticking point with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I'm wondering if they see eye to eye on this point. And how do you see the next day? What the next day in Gaza will look like?
Look, right now the President is focused on today and to get the Hamas to agree to this ceasefire. I don't want to comment on the details of the arrangement out of respect for these negotiations, but a agreeable and appropriate ceasefire proposal has been sent to Hamas, and I can also tell you Special Envoy Witkoff intends to travel to Doha later this week, where he will continue to engage in these discussions. And the Qataris and the Egyptians have been incredibly helpful partners in mediating these negotiations and discussions to bring peace to this region and end this conflict once and for all. Kristen.
Two questions. Thank you, Caroline. Sure. The first question is President Trump reconsidering his plan to phase out FEMA, given what officials have said
that is their critical role on the ground now in Texas?
Look, the president wants to ensure American citizens always have what they need during times of need. Whether that assistance comes from states or the federal government, that's a policy discussion that will continue. And the president has always said he wants states to do as much as they can, if not more. And in the case of Texas, the state and local officials are doing a tremendous job. And I know the president, Secretary Noem, and the federal government are very proud to be working with them. And the president has promised to give Texas the assistance that they need during this tragic time.
Just one follow-up on cuts overall. Over the weekend, President Trump said that Elon Musk was a train wreck. Are there, given this current viewpoint, are there concerns within the White House or from the president himself over the cuts that happened under Musk while he was advising DOGE, including the National Weather Service?
I think I've already addressed that, Kristen, and what I can tell you is that these offices were fully staffed. The San Angelo office was fully staffed with 12 forecast meteorologists. There were no vacancies. The San Antonio office was operating with 11 forecasters, and as Brian said, the union themselves said that there was adequate staffing. So I think those words speak for themselves, and the numbers speak for themselves. This was a once-in-a-century flash flood, a tragic natural disaster, and the administration is doing all that we can on the ground to help these families during this time of need. Jeff.
Thanks very much, Caroline. Just following up on Kristen's question, is it still the president's plan to phase FEMA out by the end of this year?
I just answered Kristen's question for you.
One more, hold on, one more.
Sure, I'll give it to you. Go ahead.
The follow-up on trade as well. 12 more letters coming, you said. Can you give us a sense of which countries those are?
I'll let the president reveal those in very due time. Keep your eyes on Truth Social. Michael, in the back.
Thank you, Caroline. An armed shooter today was shot in McAllen, Texas, after opening fire on Border Patrol agents. Comes just days after Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently said she gets, quote, inspired when activists obstruct ICE. Does the White House expect Democrats to tone down their rhetoric in light of what we saw today in McAllen, Texas?
We certainly call on Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents who, again, are everyday men and women. I would encourage AOC and other Democrats to actually meet with the United States Border Patrol. These are honorable Americans who are just simply trying to do their job to enforce the law. They go home to their families every night just like we all do, and they deserve respect and dignity for trying to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to remove public safety threats from our communities. The White House is aware of the shooting that took place today in Texas, and we are working with the appropriate federal agencies to get to the bottom of what happened.
Caroline, the DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death, and they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption, but they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
I've got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
Thanks, Caroline. With Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting the White House today, yesterday the president said that he was working on a more permanent deal with Iran, but several days ago he didn't think one was necessary. What changed?
Well, when you asked me about this, or when you all asked me about this several weeks ago, I said the president thought maybe an Iran deal was not necessary, but of course the president is always interested in peace and diplomacy. That remains true, and the administration continues to be in contact both directly and indirectly with the Iranians on a deal.
And then on tariffs, you're now delaying the deadline from July 9th to August 1st. Is that an acknowledgement that perhaps the administration found it more difficult to negotiate these trade deals, or whatever happened to 90 deals in 90 days?
No, it's an acknowledgement that this administration is doing what's best for the American worker, and we want the best deals possible for our workers, for our manufacturing base, for our middle class, and they are doing this deliberately and appropriately on behalf of our country's interests. Josh.
A couple more on the tariffs. You said about 12 more letters. There were about 55 or so countries, including the EU as a bloc, that were facing this tariff increase. All of those, to understand it correctly, are now deferred to August 1st, right?
Correct.
And on the 12, what happens with the remaining, whatever it would be, 40 something?
So just 12 today. There will be additional letters in the coming days.
So all of them are going to get a letter at some point?
Correct.
Okay, and can you tell me why he decided to start with South Korea and Japan? Are they annoying him?
It's the president's prerogative, and those are countries he chose.
And on the sectoral tariffs, it's our understanding that these continue to be a separate track. We're still waiting on a bunch of those.
That's right.
Is there any timing update on when he's going to move on, for instance, semiconductor tariffs and other things that are still in the hopper?
I don't have a timing update, but for where they are in the process, I would defer you to the Department of Commerce.
Should we expect deals finally as well? He announced his Vietnam deal. Are you close on any other countries?
The president and the administration, yes, we are close. But again, the president wants to ensure these are the best deals possible. And I would add just one more thing on trade and tariffs to wrap it up. Look at the extensive work this president has put into cutting these good deals and doing what's right for the American worker. He is literally looking at the map and looking at every country on the planet and seeing where they are ripping off the American people, seeing where they have hollowed out our industrial base, seeing where our jobs have gone to other countries overseas because of their tariff policies, and he's trying to correct that. So this is decades of bad trade policy that has led to a deficit that is ravaging our country, that is ravaging our middle class, and the president is taking a very deliberate approach to correcting this wrong of many decades, of many past presidents. And so I think he should be commended for the time and the effort that he is putting into this. And the fact that he has announced a framework with China, a trade deal with the United Kingdom, a trade deal with Vietnam, and many others to come in just a matter of 6 months is truly historic, and it's a testament to this president and his trade team who are working around the clock to get this done. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Two questions on Iran. What's the permanent deal with Iran looks like for the president, and what issues related to Iran should it cover? And secondly, has the president seen the interview with Iranian president, which he says that the United States president, Mr. Trump, is capable enough to guide the regions toward the peace and brighter future and put Israel in its place, or it gets more into conflict? Has the president seen these comments, and what's his reaction to these comments?
I'm not sure if he's seen those comments, but certainly I think it's true that the president is the right man for the job to move the direction, this region into the direction of peace and stability for the future. That's what he and his national security team are working on every day, and we've already seen historic achievements in that direction.
Follow-up?
Go ahead. In the back. Kelly, go ahead.
Great, thank
sure.
you.
And then in front of you.
Okay, a couple questions for you. First,
y'all need name tag signs.
First question on the flooding in Texas. I know there has been some concern about the timing of the alerts, knowing that they did go out, but the warnings coming out in the wee hours, so while many people were like sleeping. Can you share just details about why those warnings were sent while people were likely sleeping, and then what the administration is doing to ensure that these alerts come out sooner?
Well, the alerts imminently were sent out before the flood when people were sleeping, because the flood hit in the very early hours of the morning. So people were sleeping in the middle of the night when this flood came. That was an act of God. It's not the administration's fault that the flood hit when it did. But there were early and consistent warnings. And again, the National Weather Service did its job. On July 2nd, there were initial notices of potential weather and flooding risks were issued. On July 3rd, escalating warnings throughout the day with a flood watch issued at 1:18 p.m. And then later at 6:10 p.m. on July 3rd, the Weather Prediction Center warned of excessive rainfall and a high likelihood of flash flooding. At 6:22 p.m. July 3rd, National Weather Center issued a hydraulic warning highlighting considerable flooding risks, including in Caryville County. And then there were the timely flash flood alerts at 11:41 p.m., 1:14 a.m., and then another flash flood emergency warning issued at 4:03 a.m. just before the flood hit. So those were all of the warnings that went out to the affected area and region. Go ahead.
One question on education funding for
Thank you
states
very
and
much.
local
Appreciate it,
districts.
Caroline. 2 questions for you related to the Prime Minister's visit today. Number one, there's a report circulating that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation provided a proposal to the White House to build these so-called humanitarian transit areas inside and outside of Gaza. The GHF is insistent it has nothing to do with that proposal. Can you shed any light on whether the White House has received such a proposal, and if so, from whom?
I'm unaware if a proposal from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was sent to the White House. I haven't seen it, but I can ask our National Security Council.
And also a document circulating that the White House is prepared to lift the Foreign Terrorist Organization designation from HTS, the group of President al-Shara in Syria. Can you confirm that that's taking place?
Again, I haven't heard that, or I'm not aware of that action taking place. As you know, we did lift particular sanctions on Syria, but we did leave them on for particular terrorist groups. If that has changed, we will, of course, let you know if there's a change in policy, but I'm unaware of one at this time. Go ahead.
Me? Hi, Caroline. Thank you. Ahead of
You can go too, since you're so eager.
ahead of the president's meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, is there a scenario where Israel has made it clear that they will not bring an end to this war until Hamas is decimated? And the president just 5 months ago suggested a potential takeover of Gaza. Is there a situation where tonight the two men will change their posture, and in the scenario that Hamas turns over the remaining hostages, that the war could come to a permanent end, and that they will seek that under that scenario that they would essentially try to bring this war to a permanent end beyond just that 60-day ceasefire?
Again, you're putting a hypothetical situation in the air, so I don't want to comment on that out of respect for these ongoing negotiations and discussions that are taking place. But as for the takeover of Gaza, I don't believe the president ever said that. I think he discussed a rebuilding of Gaza once this war is over. This has become an uninhabitable place for human beings, and the president has a big heart. He wants this to be a prosperous, safe part of the region where people and families can thrive, and there will be a need for a real rebuilding effort when the time comes. But right now we need to end this war, and we need to bring all of the hostages home. The president is adamant about that.
The war tonight?
Look, again, I will let the president speak for himself later if he decides to comment on the details of the agreement, but out of respect for the discussions, I won't do that from the podium. Go ahead.
So Congressman Lawler and Gottheimer have introduced a bill in Congress, the Bunker Buster Act, that would allow the United States to sell B-2 bombers and bunker buster bombs to Israel. Is that something the president would support?
Well, I don't know if the president's aware of the Bunker Buster Act, but I will ask him and see what his opinion on that is. I'm not sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Building off of the question earlier about the shooter in Texas who targeted ICE, Axios reported today, I believe, that Democrat lawmakers were saying their constituents are calling on them to be more violent when they go to ICE facilities, including, I believe, they want them to shed blood, and that they said that Democrat lawmakers should be willing to get shot themselves. Can you respond to that, and do you have concerns that any of these lawmakers might act on the wishes of their constituents?
It's hard to believe anyone with morals in this country or decency would say such a thing. Obviously, the White House condemns that rhetoric, and we condemn violence of any kind. This administration is simply trying to enforce our laws, and we must be a nation of law and order. You cannot simply waltz across our border and live here illegally and expect to stay. We are going to enforce our nation's laws, and the men and women who are doing that are doing so in a respectful way. They are doing so within the confines of the law, and they are just trying to do their jobs. And we condemn any violence or any calls for violence of any kind against any American. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I wanted to ask you if...
I was not calling on you, but you can go ahead. It's fine. There's a lot of people in here today.
President Trump already saw the letter that the Colombian president Gustavo Petro sent him, apologizing for his comments a few weeks ago, suggesting that there was an involvement from the U.S. government in an alleged coup d'etat in Colombia. And Secretary Rubio recalled the U.S. Chargé d'Affaires in Colombia. Did President Trump saw that letter, and what do you think about the comments from President Petro suggesting that the U.S. has some kind of involvement in a coup?
I'm not sure if the president has seen that letter, but I can check with him in the National Security Council. We will get you a response if you follow up with my team. We will find out for you.
Caroline?
Sure, go ahead. Iris, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline. On two topics. First,
I love how excited everyone is on Monday. Yes, Raquel, you can go after.
On two topics. First, tariffs. The president announced last night that any countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged with an additional 10% tariff. Can you tell us more details on that? What specific policies is the president talking about here? What policies should countries stay away from to avoid being subject to additional tariffs?
Sure. Well, the president feels, generally speaking, that BRICS is seeking to undermine the interests of the United States. It's the president's utmost responsibility to put the interests of the United States first. That's how he views his job as president. So he's going to ensure that America is fairly treated on the world stage, and he'll take any action necessary to prevent countries from taking advantage of the United States and our people. Raquel, go ahead.
On illegal immigrants, Reuters' our Tom Homan told us this morning that ICE will have to arrest 7,000 illegal immigrants every day for the remainder of this administration to just catch the ones that were let in during the last administration. I'm wondering what the new resources and manpower, of course, given by the Big Beautiful Bill, which of course opens the door for ICE to hire additional 10,000 agents and officers. What's the administration's expectations now for daily arrest numbers going forward in the upcoming months?
Sure. I'll let the Secretary of Homeland Security and her department speak on what they're looking for in terms of daily numbers. What I can tell you is I receive the daily reports each morning, and ICE is out there doing the jobs that they swore an oath to do, and they are removing public safety threats from our communities every day, and our country is becoming a safer place because of their efforts. And the One Big Beautiful Bill that is now law will give significant resources to ICE and Border Patrol to continue the tremendous work that they are already doing. And I think every American who wants to live in a safe neighborhood should be grateful for their efforts.
Thank you,
Raquel, and then I can go to you.
So much.
And then you, Dr. Harper.
Thank you, Caroline. It's a follow-up on the BRICS question. So does President Trump believe that the BRICS are getting stronger or trying to isolate the United States? And how close is he monitoring this summit that is taking place in Brazil right now?
He's closely monitoring it, which is why he put out a statement himself. He does not perceive these countries as growing stronger. He just perceives them as trying to undermine the United States' interests, and that's not okay with him, no matter how strong or weak a country may be. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
As promised, yes.
Thank you. Does Trump have a vision for post-war Gaza? You mentioned, he's talking about now the ceasefire, but does he support permanent or temporary Israeli presence in the Gaza Strip? Does he continue to see a continued role for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to continue to operate in the Gaza Strip?
Well, as you know, because we've talked about it before, the president has directed aid to be moved into the region, and that has been taking place. You've actually seen people in the Gaza Strip yelling out, "Thank you, Trump," for the aid and for the meals that they have received, because the previous administration never did that for some reason. But this president, again, wants to see peace and stability in the region. So as I outlined previously, he views this part of the region as having a real chance at being peaceful and prosperous. But again, we need to end this war. We need to get all the hostages home, and Hamas needs to accept this proposal in order to do that. Dr. Harper, go ahead.
I'm Dr. Anthony Harper with the Intermountain Christian News. Thank you for taking my questions. Given the nature of the Palestinian Authority, with their pay to slay, teaching Jew hatred to children, corrupt leaders, and no elections for 19 years, who does President Trump support to govern Area A and Area B to prevent Hamas from ruling And what is President Trump's position on Israeli sovereignty?
Sure. Well, the president believes Israel, of course, has a right to defend itself. As for the first part of your question, you're getting ahead, Dr. Harper. As I told you, the president wants Hamas to accept this proposal right now. He wants to see peace in this region, and he's committed to doing that. Sean.
Hey, Caroline, can you just please walk us through the decision to halt the supply of weapons to Ukraine at a time when Russia is really hitting Ukrainian cities and civilians? Was that the president who decided that, or did the Pentagon do it without his approval?
No, neither of those things are true. I'm happy to walk you through it. This was a standard review by the Pentagon of all weapons and all aid and all support that the United States is providing all countries and all regions around the world, not just Ukraine. When the Secretary of Defense took office, he directed the Pentagon to conduct this review to ensure that everything that's going out the door aligns with America's interests. So it's a pause to review to ensure that everything the Pentagon is pushing out there is in the best interest of our military and our men and women in uniform. Fran.
Two questions on Israel. You suggested that Hamas is the impediment currently to a ceasefire. So if not a ceasefire deal, then what does the president hope to achieve with tonight's dinner with the prime minister?
Again, you guys are getting around to a lot of hypotheticals. I don't want to get ahead of the president, but there are many other issues to discuss with Prime Minister Netanyahu tonight related to the region and just the entire world. So this will be a dinner to talk about Operation Midnight Hammer, which was incredibly successful, to talk about peace in Gaza and ending that conflict, as well as many other topics of discussion in relation to Israel and the United States. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. Given the fact, this is on the trade letters, given the fact that the president put into effect the tariffs on April 2nd and then put the pause into place, is the president at all concerned that these countries that are receiving the letters won't take them seriously because the deadline seems to have shifted already and may shift again?
They will take the letter seriously because they have taken the president seriously, and that's why the president's phone, I can tell you, rings off the hook from world leaders all the time who are begging him to come to a deal. And this administration is working hard to ensure those deals are in the best interest of the American people. And this delay, again, is in the best interest of the American people. And you all will continue to see these letters released on the president's Truth Social, and we will see you all later. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Caroline.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. That was Caroline Levitt that just walked away from the podium. So some takeaways from this White House briefing. One, President Trump is to sign an order for tariff hikes to take place on August 1st. So delaying that deadline that was initially set for Wednesday. Also, we learned that President Trump is planning to tour flood-devastated Texas later this week, likely Friday. And this evening, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Trump are set to have dinner. They're set to meet. This as Israel enters the 21-month war with Hamas in Gaza. Also, as they work on the issues when it comes to Iran. I'm just kind of listing some things, some of these takeaways from this White House briefing. But again, those are a few of the takeaways from that White House briefing that took place. All right, so we want to check in. We want to come back home. We want to check in on our forecast. Let's check in with meteorologist Becca Birdsall for your full forecast.
Good Monday afternoon. The heat and humidity are back in full control for today, as we'll likely see those high temperatures soar once again to the middle to upper 90s, about 10 degrees warmer than what it was for yesterday afternoon, with those peak heat index values close to 100. Now, there is going to be a chance for an isolated shower or storm pretty much at any point during the daytime hours, but most locations will stay dry. Tomorrow, the heat will only continue to ramp up. We'll likely see those peak heat index values close to around 103, which is just barely cooler than the heat advisory criteria of 105 to 109. But a couple of our counties, especially south of Charlotte, may be added to a heat advisory. Again, why we are weather alert for dangerous heat expected. There is also going to be a chance for a couple of isolated strong to severe thunderstorms that could contain damaging wind gusts upwards of 58 miles per hour. When you combine that with intense rainfall rates, that's also when we have the potential to see some downed trees and some down power lines as well. Checking in on now post-tropical storm Chantal as it continues to drive up those rain showers up towards the northern mid-Atlantic. Not going to have an impact on the Carolinas anymore, but looking back, that was the same system that brought those soakers, especially between Greensboro and Raleigh, 10 to 12 inches, closer to Southern Pines, 6 to 7. And while this continues to weaken out as it drifts up to the north, there is still going to be impacts along the Carolina coast, anywhere from a moderate to high rip current risk. That is something that will start to improve as we approach the next several days. Chantal also brought cooler conditions across the Carolinas. It was the first day in the 80s in 17 days. Our heat streak actually of consecutive high temperatures, 90 degrees or above, that actually ranks in the top 3 in the last 10 years. And you know what? We are starting completely over today. We've already hit 90 degrees and we'll likely continue to see several more added to this over the next several days, with well above average temperatures from now all the way through about Tuesday, starting to get down closer to average as we approach midweek and towards the end of the work week as our rain chances start to increase. Peak heat index tomorrow will be at 103, 101 for your Wednesday, and start to feel more like the upper 90s as we get some cooler temperatures towards the end of the work week. Rain chances will peak between Wednesday and Thursday, but we'll continue to see them ramp up all the way through the end of the work week, which could lead to flooding concerns as a stalled front continues across the Carolinas. Again, it's also going to be bringing the potential for a couple of strong storms. So let's time this out for you. For today, between now until about 8 o'clock, there will be about a 20% chance of a shower or storm, but most locations will stay dry. We'll do it all again for Tuesday as well, with those rain chances fizzling out as we lose that daytime heating. You'll notice Wednesday, it's a much better coverage and more widespread showers and storms expected, some of which could be slow moving downpours. And where we see those heaviest downpours set up is where we also have the potential to see 1 to 3 inches of rain across some portions of the area. It's just not going to be widespread, but is why the entire area is encompassed under a low threat for excessive rainfall. High temperatures for today, like I mentioned, middle to upper 90s. And actually, as we look at our average highs over the next week ahead, you'll notice July 11th is actually where we peak, with our average high up to 91. After that, our average high starts to go down into the upper 80s towards the end of the month. 7-day forecast today: hot, humid, couple of isolated showers or storms, upper 90s. We'll do it all again for Tuesday with a 30% chance coverage. Just hotter. Heat index values closer to 103. We'll see those rain chances increase through midweek, and we'll carry them all the way through the weekend.
It's kind of crazy how hot it's gotten again, James. Like that one day spoiled us.
Back.
I mean,
you like it or not.
That sounds like what I'm dealing with right now. I guess I have to like it or not. So there you go. All right. That was Becca Bursall, meteorologist Becca Bursall, with a check of the forecast. All right, let's stay here at home. We want to check in on a story that we've been following since yesterday. So let me set you up. A Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officer was shot in the leg early Sunday morning during a domestic disturbance call in Uptown Charlotte. So yeah, that's the story that we are following from Sunday morning, early Sunday morning. I want to get over to WCNC Charlotte's Bria Smith, who was here in studio. You're following the story, so Bria, catch us up. What can you tell us about what you're following today?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like you said, it did take place yesterday morning. Around 6:15 in the morning is when a CMPD officer responded to this call for service. He was under the impression that it was a domestic violence incident, so he went to kind of diffuse the situation. From there, the now identified suspect, Demetrius Bristow, and the officer got into some confrontation. That's when the gunshot went off and the officer suffered injury to his leg.
So when I think of Uptown, I think of one, there are businesses there are people that live in Uptown. Did you get a chance to talk to people that live there, businesses, like, and if so, like, how are they reacting?
Yeah, we did get the chance to speak to people who live in that area and frequent that area. And one person who lives near the apartment complex where this incident kind of unfolded pretty much said that, they were asleep, so they didn't hear the initial gunshot. prior to that morning, that night, they thought they heard like fireworks going off, 4th of July weekend. So they didn't suspect anything really until they received actually a notice from the apartment complex just letting them know kind of what happened. So in a way, this neighbor that we spoke to, they were surprised, but also they are aware that unfortunately there are some homeless people living in that area. So it's kind of known for some kind of, mischief, but overall they were surprised to, notice that something like that was so close to home.
Were they scared at all?
Yeah, they were a little. He did say that he was a little scared because again, it's things you hear, right, but you don't actually experience or isn't up close. So he was a little scared that it was like literally outside of his balcony.
Before I let you go, we talked about it before we got to you. So you've covered a number of domestic violence, officer-involved shootings recently in the area. Separate from this, not tied. I want to point out it's not tied together, but something that you've been tracking and looking at, right?
Yeah, and it's something that I'm kind of interested to continue following because it's been 1 week, and in just 1 week, so from Sunday to Sunday, 3 separate incidents in different areas, but all involving or related to some kind of domestic violence and officer, involvement there. So just kind of wondering, the stem and the root of that all, and if law enforcement, far and near, are working to tackle that.
One last question. I promise. I know I said last question was my last question. One last question was you had his name, Demetrius Bristow. Was he in court today?
Yes. So
okay.
This morning at 10 a.m. There was his first hearing, and so he had a couple of charges like attempted first-degree murder, and plenty other charges there. So that information will be, since court took place today, will be available on the city's website tomorrow around that time.
All right, Bria Smith. And where can folks catch a story?
So this will air today at 4 p.m. and 5 p.m.
All right, thank you for your time. All right.
Thanks for having me.
That's the story that we're following today. Again, we have the press conference that you can follow, I believe, on our YouTube. We also ran that full press conference from Sunday during our morning stream from 9 to 11. All right, so let's get out to the Philly area. So we are awaiting a press conference now, and I'm looking up. I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking up because I'm checking to see if that press conference is about to start. It has not. So let me give you a little bit of background. So it's been, I feel like the story's been sort of everywhere. So talking about City of Philadelphia workers striking, and this is day 7 of that strike. So the AFSCME District Council 33 is on strike, impacting many of the City of Philadelphia's services, including 911 dispatch, trash removal, water, and more. This is a live look outside of where that press conference is going to happen there in Philadelphia. So the strike went into effect at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday, July 1st. After the union and the city failed to reach an agreement on a new contract. Let's get over to NBC as they have more on this evolving situation there with the workers and the city of Philadelphia.
In the city of brotherly love, these sights and smells of summer aren't what residents and tourists had in mind.
It stank, and it's getting worse because of the heat.
It's bad, yeah. People are walking by and holding their nose.
Heaps of trash are piling up across Philadelphia after thousands of city workers walked off the job a week ago.
Philadelphia works because we do.
The city stuck in a standoff over pay with District Council 33, a union representing some 9,000 municipal workers, and the fallout felt over the holiday weekend.
I never, ever, ever want to disappoint my fans.
Hip-hop legend LL Cool J dropping out of a 4th of July concert in a show of solidarity with union workers on the picket line.
There's absolutely no way that I could perform when I know that people are out there fighting for a living wage.
As the city and the union battle over pay raises and benefits, residents are seeing and smelling the effects.
Nobody wants to smell that when they wake up and, come outside for a breath of fresh air.
Hoping for resolution as the grueling strike wears on.
I hope this gets fixed. I hope people get paid more and get rid of the trash and, get back to life.
All right, so this is a live look again. We are expecting a press conference there as workers are on strike. This is day 7 of that strike in the city of Philadelphia for city workers there on strike against the city. And this strike went into effect last week, so this is day 7. So as soon as that press conference pops up, we will take you there live here on Live Impact News. All right, so we want to shift now, happening live. There's a press conference happening. So this is a press conference revolving around the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case. It is in court. So what's happening, a judge is hearing 2 motions. One, the Trump administration's motion to dismiss the case because they brought Abrego back to the U.S., and then the plaintiff's motion to return Abrego to the District of Maryland after he is released from federal custody in Tennessee. So some moving parts in this case, but again, this is a press conference that's happening right now. Let's take a listen in.
Just like we're fighting back in all of these other cases to prevent people who've been granted protection in this country from being removed to random third countries. And that's what this court is now going to have to decide in the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia.
Can you provide summary in Spanish? From Fox 5. In court, U.S. Attorney said they couldn't tell what third country it would be. Do you believe them? Do they know what they want to do, or are they just not telling the judge?
Since day 1 of this case, the government's strategy has been to send its lawyers into court with, no information or insufficient information, right? So when the Department of Justice lawyers say that they don't know where he's being sent to, that could be. But if that's the case, it's the result of a deliberate strategy by the Department of Homeland Security not to communicate with the lawyers who are going into court.
Do you think they'll tell you on Thursday where they're going to send him, where they plan to?
They're going to have to put a witness under oath. I don't think the judge is going to really put up with any prevarication.
If the concern is about what happens next, and I know he's set to be released next week in Tennessee, would you rather see Mr. Abrego Garcia remain detained in Tennessee if the concern is that he is picked up again and deported to some third country?
2 weeks ago, Mr. Abrego Garcia's criminal legal defense team needed to essentially file a request postponing the release out of Tennessee just to give this court time to act, right? To give Judge Zinnes sufficient time to hold today's hearing. At today's hearing, she determined she needs an evidentiary hearing. She's doing that on Thursday. It's an incredibly compressed time frame. I'm confident that she's going to rule on our motion to bring him to Maryland prior to July 16th.
So, Simon, just to be clear, then you believe when you said that you expect that his attorneys in Tennessee will drop their request that he be held in U.S. Marshals custody, that they will drop that request and then he'll be taken into ICE custody?
So the criminal attorneys in Tennessee requested that he be held in criminal detention in Tennessee through the next hearing in that case, which is on the 16th of July, which is next week. That's why we're asking this court to rule prior to the 16th of July on our motion. And what the motion is asking for is that when he be released from criminal custody in Tennessee, he be brought here into this building.
And if I can follow up, when the government said they're not going to, and they didn't use these words, but they're not going to pursue the criminal case if he's deported to a third country, what does that say to you?
Yeah, I don't really want to comment on the criminal case, but it was quite revealing at the start of the hearing when the government lawyer seemed to imply that the indictment was at least in part sort of posturing in front of the government of El Salvador. That was a very interesting moment, but I'll leave comments on the criminal case to the criminal defense attorneys. Por supuesto. La última vez que Kilmar Abrego García fue subido a un avión, él no sabía a dónde iba este avión, sino hasta que el avión aterrizó en el aeropuerto de El Salvador. Lo que estamos peleando ahorita es para que esto no vuelva a suceder. No a El Salvador, sino a un tercer país con el cual él no tiene ninguna conexión. Sería México, sería Libia, sería el sur de Sudán, sería algún otro país que ni siquiera hemos imaginado todavía. Lo que el gobierno está diciendo actualmente es que lo quieren enviar a un tercer país, pero no saben, supuestamente ni siquiera saben cuál. Entonces es la estrategia que han utilizado desde el principio de este caso, que es mandar abogados a la corte que no tienen información directamente de la agencia de Departamento de Seguridad Interna. Esta vez la jueza dijo que no está conforme con esto y por lo tanto ordenó que el jueves viene un alto oficial del Departamento de Seguridad Interna con conocimiento personal de cuál es el plan para Kilmar Abrego García. Ahora no van a poder esconder detrás de el jueves ya no van a poder esconder detrás de sus abogados. Un oficial va a tener que levantar la mano derecha y explicar exactamente, detalladamente, cuál es el plan para Kilmar Abrego García. ¿A dónde lo quieren mandar? ¿Cuándo? Porque él tiene derecho de someter una aplicación para protección. Cualquier país que ellos nombren, tal como él sometió una aplicación para protección y ganó su caso a El Salvador.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We are chugging along, James. We are within the last hour of this show, but however, stay with us because we are on pretty much all day here on WCNC Plus. But just wanted to check in with you guys. So this is a live look outside of a courthouse in D.C. Case involving Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who was sent to El Salvador. Trump administration and law enforcement claimed that he was a gang member, but he apparently wasn't. So there's been a back and forth legal situation going on with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. To your top right, we're awaiting a press conference with Philadelphia city workers impacting. So there's a press conference, and so they've been on strike since last Tuesday, which has impacted trash, water, and other city services there after a disagreement with the city. Below, that is new video of the remnants of Tropical Depression Chantal. Let's make sure I'm going to update some of our information. So right now, the latest from WRAL, 120 roads are closed across North Carolina due to flooding from Chantal. Heavy rain hit central North Carolina late Sunday, leaving devastating flooding behind. You see some of this video. This is live here. And this is impacting, you talk about Durham County, Chapel Hill, which is Orange County, Chatham County, the Eno River, seeing so much of the Eno River basically spilling out because of so much water, seeing so much water and so much rain. Dozens were rescued from Durham County because they were impacted by the Eno River flooding. More than 19,000 customers are without power in North Carolina. That's according to Duke Energy. And flooding and washed out roads have blocked, 100 plus roads, highways across central North Carolina.
Nick, I can add that the National Weather Service, who is out on the ground today doing storm surveys, they're essentially being storm detectives, confirmed to our news partners at WFMY that a tornado did hit Snow Camp in North Carolina. They're still working to determine the strength and the path. They'll clarify that information. We'll, of course, have that coming up at 6:30 tonight. But again, a tornado, one, probably several, that Chantal produced in the Carolinas yesterday. The National Weather Service still out looking both at flooding and tornado damage.
Wow. So right now, there is a state of emergency declared for Moore and Orange counties because of this flooding. I'm just kind of going down a list of what I'm seeing from WRAL's website there. They have reporters there on the ground. For instance, a town like Hillsborough, which is within Orange County, they're dealing with the boil water notice for all customers who get water from the town due to the Eno River. Eno River, folks use it. There's a park there by the Eno River. Folks enjoy that park there. So again, I've been seeing pictures from friends and video from friends who live there. I worked there in the area for about 3 years, and I've seen pictures and video of grocery stores, homes, neighborhoods flooded, and definitely devastating there as folks on this Monday, start of the week, have to deal with this. So again, that is a live look there in central North Carolina, remnants of Tropical Depression Chantal. Do we want to shift away from this? I see something live here.
I think what we're seeing is essentially dueling news conferences. Nick, you told our viewers that we're waiting to hear from the workers in Philadelphia who are on strike. I believe, and we can listen in to confirm, I think city officials are speaking right now.
Yeah, let's listen in.
So we're going to hold on that. After you do it, I'll come back and we'll do a second round and be able to answer any specific questions and talk through what happened over the weekend. Thank you, everyone.
All right, Joe, you want to? Oh.
We'll wait until after.
All right. So what we're going to do now is take a walk up the street. Sure. No, we have a few sites that look like 50th and Wyalusing, and we have a lot of sites that look like here at 15th and Bigler. And so we're bringing in additional resources to be able to move that piles with heavy equipment, and once we maintain that area, we'll staff it and secure additional capacity so it doesn't get in that condition again.
How did it get so far out of control?
Well, when you're trying to move 2,000 tons of trash per day, it can get that way pretty quickly. I will tell you that we cleaned up that site in the morning, one of the sites in the morning. In the afternoon, it looks like we weren't there. So we'll continue to increase that capacity of the amount of people that we have to try to reduce those piles and gain control of those sites. But the illegal dumping at that location is causing that problem to exacerbate, and we need to address that issue.
I have a question regarding an incident at City Hall Day for Mr. Bethel. Around 11 or 12:30 p.m., 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. today, a video posted to Instagram of demonstrators getting arrested at City Hall for dropping their trash off there. Would Commissioner Bethel or anybody with the PPD be able to shed some light on what happened?
Yeah, you want to do that? After this question, we do want to get to the actual location, right? But I'm going to answer that. Commissioner Bethel's going to answer that question, and we're going to walk up to that, and we're going to return to this location. All right?
Yeah, I have no updates on that. That was done by the Sheriff's Department. You would have to follow up with the Sheriff's Department to find out exactly what occurred there.
Have any protesters been arrested by the police department?
You want to walk? Yeah. All right. Yeah.
I don't call these individuals, they're picketers. They're not protesters. And that's a very big distinction between the two. We have not, except for the last week when we made one arrest for individual for vandalism on day one, we have not arrested anyone as part of from District Council 33 to my recollection for any other activities since then. However, we continue to investigate some acts of vandalism that could change.
We'd like to take it up. And then again for late arrivals.
All right, so it looks like that press conference just wrapped up. So what we heard there was from city officials. You see the camera kind of all over the place. It looks like they are moving this setup to a different location, as you heard there from a city official in Philadelphia. On the right are the workers striking. Again, this strike impacting trash removal, water, other city services there in the city of Philadelphia. Make sure I get you the right information. Again, the strike went into effect at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday, July 1st, after the union and the city failed to reach an agreement on a new contract. All right, so Philly's mayor, Sherrell Parker, explained that trash pickup at the curb will not happen in the city during the strike. City officials shared a map and locations of collection centers where residents can bring their trash during the strike, and trash has piled up throughout the city since this strike began. So at this moment, city officials just finished discussing the city services as we are in the midst of this strike. To your right, we're waiting to hear from the AFSCME District Council 33, which is on strike, and again, impacting many of the city services, including 911 dispatch, trash removal, and water, plus more. All right, so let's shift away now. see something live, James. Walk me through this.
We do see something live, and I will take our viewers there, and we will learn about this together. But, Nick, as we await to hear more out of Philadelphia, we're getting aerials from the Los Angeles area from our content partner at KNBC. They're calling this federal agents gathering at Los Angeles' MacArthur Park. And so we have both aerial images and ground images that we'll bring you here in just a moment, but we are looking from the helicopter at some sort of armored vehicle, and we are learning this all together right now as I prepare to tune in KNBC coverage.
Okay, yep, I am pulling up KNBC right now. As James, as you work on getting their coverage, I read you what they have on their website, and James did a great job of laying that out. So again, as just to reiterate what James was saying, federal agents are gathered at Los Angeles' MacArthur Park. Federal agents responded Monday at MacArthur Park in LA's Westlake area. Now, details about why the agents, some in tactical gear, were at the park west of downtown Los Angeles, were not immediately available. At least 100 federal agents and other law enforcement officers were seen on streets bordering the park. That's what witnesses told NBC LA. So you see it right there. And I believe we have that coverage ready for you. So let's take you out to LA. This is KNBC, NBC LA. Let's listen into their coverage of what's happening there.
Far and wide.
You know, and again, you know, so many people aware now of what is happening around MacArthur Park there. What street are we on, Julia?
This is still going to be Rampart Boulevard. This is now North Rampart Boulevard. They're driving northeast. And let me get you the next intersection here. They're not moving very quickly. Yeah. And I would estimate it's probably a row of 10 to 12 vehicles. This is going to be North Rampart and Temple Street.
It really doesn't seem as if they have a final destination at this point. You said they're within a mile of MacArthur Park where they were staged. We saw activists down there as well. They are now on the move. A number of those white vans, along with what we see some those in fatigues and garb down there as well. No final destination at this point. They continue to sort of circle the area of MacArthur Park?
Yeah, they're going to be north of the park now, and I wonder if they might make moves to get onto the freeway. This is right by the 101 freeway, and I'm wondering if their plan initially was to conduct some kind of raid, but when they got to the park, if they weren't able to do that, they're now turning back and perhaps heading back to the federal building. But my pilot is looking out the front window, and it looks to him like they might be getting onto the 101 freeway now.
You know, here's the thing. We were talking about Mayor Karen Bass being there. She's also set to be speaking in a few more minutes in Pasadena to talk about the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire, along with Governor Gavin Newsom. Not sure if how that's going to all play out, but we do know that this right now is happening in her area, you know, in MacArthur Park.
Yeah, and that, Annabelle, would have been on her public schedule. So if she deviated from that because of this breaking news, it makes me wonder if she had advance notification of something happening related possibly to federal raids. But we still don't have any information confirmed, and we don't know exactly where these vehicles are now headed. My suspicion is they're getting on the 101 freeway now, and they're going to be headed south back toward downtown, the federal building, because whatever it is they were hoping to do, any detentions they were planning to make, they were not able to do that, or whoever they were looking for, they didn't find those people at that location.
It makes me wonder here, Julia, because I have yet to see a large group of people upend any federal agency's planned work. I mean, to see them just suddenly pick up and leave and possibly head back to the federal building, as we're seeing here from News Chart before, I can't recall here in recent memory.
We haven't seen that happen yet. I mean, every single raid that we have covered during the last month, you know, we've seen it lead to detentions, and I'm getting some new information from our assignment desk in my headset, so give me one moment here. Let me coordinate with them. But Michael, you're right. You know, we haven't seen these federal agents abandon any other operations.
I'm just wondering here, we have a split screen as you're watching here, the NBC4 News at 11 a.m., which we are going to continue here with this breaking news coverage. We have a ground crew there as well. I'm just wondering if we can get from our control room there, any idea whether the mayor is still within that particular area or not, or has she gone to her scheduled event? I can't imagine that she would leave something that is so active at this point. So if we can get that information from our ground crew, that would be helpful to us as well. It is 11:30, and we are continuing our 11 a.m. newscast to bring you breaking news here.
That's right. Federal agents are staged in MacArthur Park right now. We've been showing you those live images thanks to News Chopper 4 Julia Dang overhead, and News Chopper 4 giving us a bird's eye view of what exactly is going on. We are being told that about 100 federal agents are out there. We saw a lot of activity. Now those agents are what appears to be in those white vans. We saw troops out there as well, but still a lot of activity around MacArthur Park.
Okay, what I'm getting here from our assignment desk here, apparently the mayor was asked what she's doing to get agents out. Mayor Bass and we're quoting here, "You wait and see, they will leave soon." So we don't know at this point whether the mayor just happened to be in the area, whether she was tipped off. We've seen time and time again live streaming video of federal agents in a particular area, and we have advocacy groups down there sort of alerting folks in the area that this is what is happening. So we don't know whether that was a tip that the mayor got, but to find her in the same area where all this federal activity is going on, I can't deem to be solely coincidental.
No, right, exactly. And we did watch Mayor Karen Bass get into an SUV, and she did leave that area.
Okay.
So, you know, there was a lot of activity going on around her, a lot of cameras, a lot of people with their cell phones out trying to just record everything and stream everything that was going on in that area. Again, Michael, you know, this area is predominantly Hispanic. There's a lot of people from El Salvador, a lot of people from Honduras, a lot of people from Guatemala. You have some Mexican people there too, but heavily Central American communities that live in MacArthur Park and the surrounding areas. Yeah. Again, summer break, people go hang out at MacArthur Park. So there's a lot of immigrants that are in this area.
All right, so we want to toss it back up to Julia Dang live for us in News Chopper 4, bringing us these photos. And Julia, in your shot here right now, we have LAPD as well. And we're back at MacArthur Park, I presume.
That's right. This is going to be near Parkview Street and 6th, and you see LAPD out here now. We don't know for sure if they're here because of whatever federal immigration activity we witnessed earlier, but you definitely see city police, and you see activists still in the park here. But I'm wondering, Michael, if the mayor and if people on the ground were tipped off by one of these apps that have been growing in popularity. I know there's one in particular that many people have been using to try and keep track of what ICE agents are doing and where they might be headed. It's called ICE Block, and I believe NBC actually had an interview with the founder of this app recently. But you see LAPD heading out now, and again, we don't know what they were doing in the park, if they were called here because of the face-off between dozens, up to 100 federal agents and these protesters.
And again, we know that when it comes to federal immigration enforcement, the LAPD does not get involved. They are not hands-on. They are there in a sort of protective stance, if you will, in case, as you mentioned, Julia, a protest happens to break out. That is what their initial and sole role would be in I guess in an activity like this.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that has been, Michael, department policy for many years. That's not new. They are not supposed to cooperate with federal civil immigration enforcement activities, but what they can do is be called to a scene where that's happening to help out, for example, with traffic enforcement or quelling a protest that has gotten violent. So I imagine that's what they were doing here, but you see those black and whites heading out now. I counted a total of about 6 vehicles at this location again, 6th and Parkview.
All right, so again, what we can ascertain at this point is the fact that, yes, they were would appear to be federal immigration officials there in MacArthur Park. We saw a number of unmarked white vans that are no longer in the area. We don't know if anybody has been detained at this point, but Mayor Bass was on scene. Don't know if she was tipped off, whether she happened to be in the area coincidentally, but she is When asked, what was going to happen next, she says, watch, you'll see they're about to leave. So, again, Julie, at this point, we don't know if anyone has been detained, whether they were looking for somebody in particular. But we've seen here immigration enforcement here in the past where it just appears to be random.
Yeah, it's been happening at a variety of locations. This is not the first park where we have seen immigration enforcement activities in recent weeks. And now there's this dark-colored SUV. It looks like it was driving out behind those LAPD vehicles, but then we saw it backing up back into the park. And as we come around to the helicopter here, you might see people on the ground with their phones out recording this SUV. We don't know which department, which agency it might be from, who might be in it, but this appears to be a focus of protesters who are documenting this on the ground.
Julia, again, and we want to mention the information that we have right now, we've been sharing with.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We're about 6 minutes past the bottom of the hour. So right now, this is live coverage from KMBC as they are following a developing story there as federal agents are at MacArthur Park. That's just west of downtown LA. We dipped into their coverage just to get a sense of what's happening. From KMBC, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass was briefly at the site in a crowd of people, including a few protesters holding signs. So it appears that Mayor Bass has left the area. The law enforcement activity comes after weeks of immigration enforcement operations in LA that led to protests in the downtown area. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. We want to go back to Philly now because two things are happening in Philly. One, we're hearing from city officials discussing city services. And then on your right, those are city workers on strike after they were unable to, I guess the workers union was unable to reach a contract last Tuesday at 12:01 a.m. They went on strike. This is day 7 of the strike. They're speaking now at a press conference to your right. So two things are happening at once. Let's take a listen in to the city workers that are speaking right now. Let's take a listen in.
Hey, listen, man, I honestly cannot be more proud of y'all. Y'all out here every day fighting this fight, struggling. Y'all the face of this entire movement. Yes. Everything in the news is predicated around what goes on in sanitation. It's not just sanitation, but y'all the face of this. This is District Council 33 fighting for all the public services we provide all across this city, from one end of the city to the next. Karen should just mention that we have yet to hear from the mayor on behalf of the two members, the two citizens of Philadelphia struck down by a drunk driver. That's appalling that had that happen. It's disgusting that happened. Absolutely playing in our face when it comes to that type of situation, that you would let personal feelings about how you feel about this get in the way of showing respect for two men and women that's out here standing for themselves. Let's be honest. We shouldn't even have to be out here. People keep reminding me, let them know that we can't afford our rent. Let them know that we got members that are living together sharing a space because they can't afford a space of their own. Let them know that while we're trying to get our credit together, we don't make enough ends to get that credit right and pay our bills and then pay these grocery rates. Eggs up 9 cents, whatever the hell the eggs are, they through the roof. Cost of living is up through the roof. Groceries overall last year are up 17% in Philadelphia. Just Philadelphia. It's sickening what's going on. They got scabs all over the city. Absolutely. Got scabs all over the city doing the work that y'all do, but they tell you they can't pay you a livable wage, but they can pay contractors top dollar. She's putting this housing initiative as part of this CBA. Y'all not slow. There's never been any housing initiative as part of a CBA agreement. Not ever. And firstly, most of y'all can't afford to live in them houses that they're talking about getting. Right. Y'all can't afford to live houses. You can't afford to upkeep them houses. Right. You got to have a whole program designed to help get you in. How you going to maintain it? How you gonna be able to do that? You can't. In most of the areas that they building them houses, don't nobody want to live in. So we don't want her option. Pay us enough money so we have our own option. We decide where we want to live at. Won't provide a residency waiver. Police got it. Fire got it. Our own members in corrections have it. PPA got it. But it's not good enough for our members. Now, truth be told, we're just looking for the ability to have options that grown men and women that serve this city every day proudly. Because most of us won't be able to live outside the city because we don't make enough money to do it. But why shouldn't you have the option to do so? You're providing a service. In our proposal, we said 10 years. 10 years. And then allow our members to be able to live outside the city. Currently, for anybody eligible for it, it's 5 years. And if you're just now coming to corrections, you have a residency waiver as soon as you start with the city. As soon as you start. Until they get to 80% capacity, they're hiring at 2. So this is about y'all. This is a personal thing going on with me and her. I ain't got nothing to do with this. My job is to advocate and fight for y'all. That's right. That's all I'm here for. Every day, I keep people calling me and telling me about their hardships and their situations. And I'm thinking, why we got to go through that in the 6th largest city in the country? How? When the mayor's cabinet is the largest in the history of Philadelphia. Average salaries of $135,000. Talk about it. But they the ones making decisions on folks that's making $40,000. How that make sense? Share it with us. It don't. It makes no damn sense that you all, how can you say you pro-labor, pro-union, pro-worker, pro-Philadelphia? You are Philadelphia. From every neighborhood across this city. And y'all serve this city proudly. Most of y'all work in this city because you know you are serving your family, your friends, and your neighbors. Otherwise, you take your talents and go elsewhere. But we love the city we represent. We love the city we work for. And all we want to do is be able to live inside the city comfortably. But as VP Little said, we got members that are eligible for public services, and some of our members are the ones providing the public services. There's something wrong with that. Yes, it is. That's what this fight is about. Staying out here, standing strong. We thought we didn't have no allies, but it's community groups all over the place. We got other unions, Teamsters out there standing strong with us. We got the AFL-CIO standing strong with us. We got the big homie. Massey standing strong with us. 1.3. That's a hell of a squad. Well, we're going to stand out here every day. We're going to be out here every day. Remember, they didn't think we was going on strike. They didn't think we were going to get past day 1. Day 2. Day 3. Day 4. Day 5. Day 6. Today is day 7. And we out here still standing, still strongest. Everybody working together. Water, sanitation, streets, airports, crossing guards, all of our members standing in solidarity together, standing up for what we know is just trying to advocate and fight for a livable wage inside of this city. There's nothing more righteous than that. Nothing more righteous. We got people all over the country watching what's going on here in Philly. What we gonna show them? We can show them better than we can tell them. So that's what we gonna do. That's how we do in Philly. So I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. DC. We won a contract? Yeah. There you go. DC 33. Appreciate y'all.
Hey, Fred, you don't talk about that Uncle Jimmy no more, do you?
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdom. You saw that impassioned speech there as the AFSCME District Council 33 is on strike, impacting many of the city of Philadelphia's services, including 911 dispatch, trash removal, water, and more. So it looks like they're actually speaking into the mic. We were going to go away from this. Let's take a listen in.
Okay, so firstly, last time we met with the city, the last time we met with the city, we furnished up with a proposal from us, and we were fully prepared to sit down and go over our proposal. But the city had a counter proposal already ready before we had the opportunity to sit and go through our proposal. And then the proposal that they came back with was the exact same proposal that they had given us the last time we had sat down. verbatim, line for line. And so now what it seems like is the city is asking us to bid and fight against ourselves. So we'll be sitting down tomorrow. We're still working out the time, but we absolutely intend to be able to sit down and negotiate in good faith. I wish the city would come to the table and do the exact same thing. Unfortunately, they're not doing it. And quite honestly, again, some of their conduct has been deplorable as far as I'm concerned. The mayor not coming out and addressing the situation that we had with 2 of our members that were struck down is disgusting. And that, she should be ashamed of herself for not doing so. But our men and women, again, provide the services that provide everybody inside the city of Philadelphia some type of quality of life. We just want to be able to have the same type of quality of life ourselves.
Where are you at right now? You were going from 8% plateau now to 5%. Where are you at?
We are still in that neighborhood. I would rather not disclose it because the city has not received our counter proposal yet. But once they do, we'll be absolutely happy to talk about that. We've come around to make it make sense for them.
Okay, and how about them? What's the latest offer?
The latest offer they gave was the exact same offer they've given us.
So nothing has changed?
Nothing has changed with the city's offer.
Mr. Saunders, what are your thoughts on Mayor Parker?
You'll be talking about the same proposal that you were ready to present on Saturday.
Different. It's been adjusted. Yes.
What are your thoughts on Mayor Parker?
I have not talked to her. That's the job that Council 33 and its leadership need to talk to her. She needs to talk to us and treat us with respect and dignity. But I just wanted to be clear coming up here that this is now not only a Philadelphia problem. This is a problem that people are looking at and noticing not only in Philadelphia but across the country. And what's fair is fair and what's right is right. Yes. And these are the everyday heroes, I stated this before, who provide essential public services to the citizens of Philadelphia. They need to be treated with respect and dignity. A hard day's work should amount to some good pay and good benefits. And that's what we're fighting for. That's not what we are going to give that up. If people think we're just going to walk away and this is over with, that ain't happening. We're here and we're making a statement, and we will get what our members need come hell or high water.
Are you encouraging DC 47 to join the strike?
Pardon me?
Are you encouraging DC 47 to join the strike?
DC 47 has their own process, and I'll be talking with them as well.
Okay, so talks continue in city tomorrow, you said?
Correct.
Well, can I ask you a question about that? Because literally, her team just said, Williams just said, they haven't received anything from the union, but they're willing to sit down with you. They literally just said that.
I don't dislike him, but he's just coming to this process with us.
Can you respond to that? Because you just said, they literally just said they haven't heard anything from you.
Well, the problem is that when you close your ears, you don't hear anything. And so if they would open their ears and be willing to actually listen to what's being said, then you might actually be able to absorb some things, and get some knowledge in your head about what exactly we're talking about. What we're talking about is these men and women who, many of them, are just the working poor living inside of this city. And if the city administration can't understand that, then how the hell do they ever expect to serve all of Philadelphia when we're one of the poorest, largest cities in the country?
Have you determined how far apart?
The city's latest offer was received as a counter proposal when we were trying to give them our counter proposal on Saturday. Their proposal was exactly the same as it was the previous time we sat down with them. Line for line, verbatim, the exact same thing. They made no movement. They're not negotiating in good faith at all. We're in the process of filing an unfair labor practice against them because they're not coming to the table and being honorable. They are offering exactly the same as what they've been doing. Now, we've modified our adjustment, trying to actually meet with them in good faith and have some conversation, but it's hard to have a conversation when somebody wants to drop a piece of paper in front of you and then walk out of the room for 4 hours at a time. And that's what's been going on, unfortunately. We need to sit down and have some true dialogue and, get people out of their feelings, because things will be said at a negotiating table, and people need to understand it and understand the situation for what it is and get past it. And let's sit down and try to make some meaningful progress so these men and women who provide all the services across Philadelphia can get back to doing what they do best. It's serving Philly.
Yeah. Right.
Same number, 2.75, 3 and 3 is what they came back with.
Greg, do you think Parker needs to be at the negotiating table too, herself?
Well, she told me the night we went on strike she was coming over and didn't come. So.
Has she been there at all?
No.
President Boulevard,
been a week now, like you noted, so folks are going to start missing paychecks. How long can the strike go on? Is the strike fund have enough?
Our resolve is strong. Our resolve is strong. Our feet are planted. My men and women are out here busting that hump, standing strong. This is the Mean Green machine. We don't move easy.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes to get it done, we doing it.
You still money to pay picketers?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How far apart are you in terms of money? We did the numbers. It came out. It's about $82 million between the two offers that were mentioned on Saturday. Does that sound about right?
It's probably about right.
Okay, so you guys aren't certain as to how far apart the sides are in terms of the
I would have to see whatever they're potentially willing to offer the next round. Again, they've been standing pat from where they are for the last two proposals. So, as far as I'm concerned, they're truly not negotiating in good faith. That's not a play where you negotiate and try to figure out how you can meet in the middle of something. That's not what's going on, unfortunately. We're there every time. We present our proposals. We want to go through them line by line and discuss any criticism or critiques or suggestions they may have, so we can meet in the middle and get this job done.
Anything regarding the residency requirements?
I should ask the mayor. She's the one that don't want to talk about it. If the members of the police department have it, and the members of the fire department have it, and the Philadelphia Parking Authority, and our own members inside of District Council 33 and local 159 correctional officers have it, why is that not good enough for our men and women? The reality is the mass of our people cannot afford to live outside the city. But you're grown. You have provided a vital service to the city, and that should come with some latitude to decide where it's best for you and your family to rest their heads at. And that's not being offered as an option to our men and women. There's not going to be a mass exodus out of this city. You might have a handful of people that move out, but the options for grown men and women is important. It shows that you value, what they think and how they feel. And if you're going to show us respect, show it to us in the wallet, and show us some latitude that allows us to be able to decide where we want to live, and not just some housing initiative or project that the mayor is instituting.
Has there been any movement on that, or just?
Not at all. The mayor is unwilling to talk about it. So tell me how you have a negotiation when somebody's unwilling to have a conversation.
That's it. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. No round of questions.
All right, so that press conference just wrapped up there. And again, AFSCME District Council 33 is on strike in the city of Philadelphia, which means it's impacting many of the city's services, including 911 dispatch, trash removal, water, and more. Again, the union and the city failed to reach an agreement on a new contract last week, actually July 1st. So that press conference happened right around the same time as city officials had their own press conference to talk about city services. All right, so let's shift away from this. Let's go back to LA. This is coverage from KNBC. Let me read you the latest and what we have. Let me press the refresh button in case some new information came down. All right, so here's what we have. Federal agents gathered Monday on streets near MacArthur Park in Los Angeles' West Lake area before leaving the area in armored vehicles, SUVs, and vans. Details about why the agents in tactical gear were at the park west of downtown Los Angeles, not immediately available. But again, you can see aerials here. KNBC has ongoing coverage of the situation. Let's take a listen in to what's happening there right now in LA.
In a way, we had the fires and there was kind of delay, but certainly in the last month and a half it has hit in a big way here. And when you look at kind of the population, and we're the second biggest city in America, and then Southern California as a region, between 18 and 25 million people. So these things tend to have huge ripple effects across not only kind of the epicenter like we're seeing today, but across the region.
Yeah, based on what you've just said, and you throw in who our governor is and who our mayor is, and the fact that we're a sanctuary city and state, that obviously makes us top of the list as well.
Right.
Andrew, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but while we got you, was it a coincidence the mayor happened to be in the area? Do you know if she was tipped off? She was supposed to make her way over to Pasadena. Anything from your sources?
It's a piece of reporting we're still trying to kind of suss out, but certainly over the weekend, the mayor put out kind of a social media tweet, again, emphasizing a message she's been sending for a while, which is she's basically saying that ICE is not welcome, and when you go back to kind of the beginning, she's been outspoken on this, and you know, on the flip side, the administration has been kind of putting mayors, as we've said, on notice around the country, and so I mean, I think this tension point is a fault line, if you will, is going to continue to grow.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much for joining us today and giving us your insight. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All right, NBC4's Conan Nolan, as we mentioned earlier, he is in Pasadena here right now, waiting on the governor to show up. What are you hearing there, Conan?
Well, we asked Senator Alex Padilla, Democrat of California, is here as well. We asked if he wanted to address what's going on at the MacArthur Park. He declined, saying they're still trying to get information about it. He'll perhaps talk afterwards. It's not just him, of course, as we had Brad Sherman, Democrat of Sherman Oaks, is here. A multitude of individuals representing the Office of Emergency Services, CAL FIRE, anybody that had anything to do really with the fires in Altadena and in the Pacific Palisades. They will be talking extensively about that, including, by the way, the first partner, Jennifer Sable Newsom, who's also going to be here and will address the Spanish language media. The mayor was supposed to be here, as you pointed out. She isn't here. Maybe she may end up coming at some point. We're not sure if the governor is at the outset going to address this later turbulence at MacArthur Park. He may. We're told there are about 7 speakers that are going to be taking part in this. But once again, this is about the 6-month anniversary of the recovery, or the 6-month anniversary of the fire. They'll be talking about the recovery. The governor already tweeting about 10,000 lots being cleared faster than any kind of lot clearance in the history of the country, water being restored, schools being restored in the area. But there are all sorts of unanswered questions. We had some protests earlier from people who believe there's too much toxicity remaining in the Altadena area. And then there are the scores of individuals who've decided we're not rebuilding, we can't rebuild, it's going to take too long, they're just selling their lots. Well, I think the governor and the first partner will address that as well. But that is what this news conference and this event was about to be for. But the undercurrent, of course, is what's happening with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I peel back here. A woman in the right, that is Dee Dee Myers. She's a special advisor to the governor. She's the former White House press secretary under Bill Clinton. She apparently, speaking to Brad Sherman, she will be speaking as well. But once again, we'll be hearing from the governor again about fires, but also about the immigration raids. Back to you.
We'll also be waiting to see if Mayor Karen Bass shows up and if she will be addressing what just happened.
All right, Conan Nolan live for us there in Pasadena. Okay, we're continuing to keep a very close eye on what is happening in and around MacArthur Park. More to come on the NBC4 News at 3.
All right. Have a good one.
On the next Kelly Clarkson Show. All right, folks, thanks for sticking with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Vanessa Rufus taking over for Nick Sturdivant. We'll be together for the next hour. You heard there, of course, some developments coming out of California. If we get any new updates, of course, we will take you there live here on Live Impact News. Meantime, we wanted to kind of set the table for the next hour, so we have quite a few headlines that we're following, not only here in the Carolinas area, but we also have some big news that we're keeping an eye out for in Texas, and that has to do with the unfortunate weather-related impacts that we're seeing out there. If you've been following some of the flooding concerns over the last several days out of Texas Hill Country, you know the devastation that's been wreaked out there as the flooding has continued, and unfortunately the death toll is rising in recent days. At last check, we are seeing in that Hill Country area the death toll getting close to 90. And there was a lot of focus on it, particularly those who are unaccounted for. There was in part a slew of missing girls from a girls' camp out by the Guadalupe River. Unfortunately, it sounds like not only were some of the missing girls, but also some of the counselors, the camp counselors there, unfortunately declared deceased. So we have some really sad updates to follow up with out of that area. So we wanted to let you know in just a few moments we should be getting live reports from our affiliate out there in the Houston area as they're keeping an eye on the very latest. We do want to, of course, note, what the weather conditions might be going forward in the future. Are they getting some relief? Will things, unfortunately, start to, pick up when it comes to the flooding? We don't know any of that, so we're going to check in with our crews out there to see what the very latest is. But with that said, that's going to be one headline that we're following out of Texas. Of course, as we mentioned, California, if we need to get back there, we will certainly do that. But as we await that live report coming up from our Houston affiliate, we do want to let you know how things are going to be here in the Carolinas on the weather front. We know it's been pretty toasty. I would say maybe this weekend was a nice weather break, perhaps, but it's hot again. So let's listen into the weather impacts in our team here. We have Becca Birdsall, who's giving us the latest on weather forecasting. So let's listen in.
Good Monday afternoon. The heat and humidity are back in full control for today, as we'll likely see those high temperatures soar once again to the middle to upper 90s, about 10 degrees warmer than what it was for yesterday afternoon, with those peak heat index values close to 100. Now, there is going to be a chance for an isolated shower or storm pretty much at any point during the daytime hours, but most locations will stay dry. Tomorrow, the heat will only continue to ramp up. We'll likely see those peak heat index values close to around 103, which is just barely cooler than the heat advisory criteria of 105 to 109. But a couple of our counties, especially south of Charlotte, may be added to a heat advisory. Again, why we are weather alert for dangerous heat expected. There is also going to be a chance for a couple of isolated strong to severe thunderstorms that could contain damaging wind gusts upwards of 58 miles per hour. When you combine that with intense rainfall rates, that's also when we have the potential to see some downed trees and some down power lines as well. Checking in on now post-tropical storm Chantel as it continues to drive up those rain showers up towards the northern mid-Atlantic. Not going to have an impact on the Carolinas anymore, but looking back, that was the same system that brought those soakers, especially between Greensboro and Raleigh, 10 to 12 inches, closer to Southern Pines, 6 to 7. And while this continues to weaken out as it drifts up to the north, there is still going to be impacts along the Carolina coast, anywhere from a moderate to high rip current risk. That is something that will start to improve as we approach the next several days. Chantel also brought cooler conditions across the Carolinas. It was the first day in the 80s in 17 days. Our heat streak actually of consecutive high temperatures, 90 degrees or above, that actually ranks in the top 3 in the last 10 years. And you know what? We are starting completely over today. We've already hit 90 degrees and we'll likely continue to see several more added to this over the next several days, with well above average temperatures from now all the way through about Tuesday, starting to get down closer to average as we approach midweek and towards the end of the work week as our rain chances start to increase. Peak heat index tomorrow will be at 103, 101 for your Wednesday, and start to feel more like the upper 90s as we get some cooler temperatures towards the end of the work week. Rain chances will peak between Wednesday and Thursday, but we'll continue to see them ramp up all the way through the end of the work week, which could lead to flooding concerns as a stalled front continues across the Carolinas. Again, it's also going to be bringing the potential for a couple of strong storms. So let's time this out for you. For today, between now until about 8 o'clock, there will be about a 20% chance of a shower or storm, but most locations will stay dry. We'll do it all again for Tuesday as well, with those rain chances fizzling out as we lose that daytime heating. You'll notice Wednesday, it's a much better coverage and more widespread showers and storms expected, some of which could be slow moving downpours. And where we see those heaviest downpours set up is where we also have the potential to see 1 to 3 inches of rain across some portions of the area. It's just not going to be widespread, but is why the entire area is encompassed under a low threat for excessive rainfall. High temperatures for today, like I mentioned, middle to upper 90s. And actually, as we look at our average highs over the next week ahead, you'll notice July 11th is actually where we peak, with our average high up to 91. After that, our average high starts to go down into the upper 80s towards the end of the month. 7-day forecast today: hot, humid, couple of isolated showers or storms, upper 90s. We'll do it all again for Tuesday with a 30% chance coverage. Just hotter hotter. Heat index values closer to 103. We'll see those rain chances increase through midweek, and we'll carry them all the way through the weekend.
There you have it, folks. And once again, we will be keeping you up to date on our weather concerns, particularly tomorrow as we are staying weather alert for dangerous heat. Want to turn our attention right now to Philly. We've got a live feed coming into our Live Impact studio right now. This is regarding the ongoing workers' strike. Municipal workers are on strike in the city of Philadelphia. That started back on July 1st. And we are hearing Philly Workers Union is expected to submit a new offer in negotiations. Keep in mind, these are the workers that are responsible for various essential services across the city: sanitation, water, police dispatch, maintenance, the airport. So you could see those workers are underway, striking as we speak. And we do have some folks who have been speaking here throughout the afternoon. Jeb, I don't know if we're hearing any audio. Okay, let's listen into some of the audio here, and we'll jump back in as necessary.
People want to know. People want to know who we are. Who we are. So we tell them. So we tell them. We are the union. We are the union. The mighty, mighty union. The mighty, mighty union. DC 33. DC.
Okay, sorry about the bars and tone there, but you get the gist there. The strike, as we mentioned, still underway, now in its 7th day, as 9,000 workers that are represented with this particular union are waiting to see what happens next with these negotiations. Once again, the workers union there for City of Philadelphia, they have submitted a new offer, and so we'll see where things go from there. But of note, you know, we talked about how the city has been pretty adamant that they're going to try to keep the essential services going as much as possible, but this did go through the July 4th holiday weekend, and so that was obviously a big headline for how they were going to handle all of the essential services as lots of folks came to the city of Philadelphia to celebrate July 4th. More updates on that to come. We are going to get, meantime, to an update here on that fireworks stand explosion that we've been following for the last several days. Really horrific situation where this was in Northern California. This fireworks facility exploded, and there was a period of time, several folks who were unaccounted for in recent days. They have started to discover human remains. So we've got the latest update for you there. Once again, we'll pop back in as new information develops.
Please hold your questions until the conclusion of today's statements. We will do our best to answer all media questions during the Q&A portion. Before we begin, I want to take a moment and acknowledge the lives lost in this devastating accident. Our hearts are with the families and the individuals who tragically lost their lives in the Oakdale fire. The entire Yolo County community stands with them during this time of grief. We will now hear from representatives from the county and partner agencies leading this response and investigation. Under Sheriff Coroner Matt Davis, Yolo County Sheriff's Office, and Fire Chief Curtis Lawrence, Esparto Fire Protection District. At this time, I would like to introduce Under Sheriff Matt Coroner Davis on the recovery efforts and coroner's investigation.
Good morning. First of all, thank you all for being here. I want to reiterate and express our condolences to the families and the loved ones of those individuals who were lost in this tragedy. I want to confirm again today that we have recovered the human remains of 7 individuals on the property. We are continuing to work and working throughout the day to ensure there are not additional victims. While we have no information to believe that there are, we're going to make sure with every available resource that no stone is left unturned and there are no individuals still left on site. As far as the 7 deceased, the DNA process will start shortly in order to obtain official identification. We expect to have that in the next 48 hours, and following the notification of next of kin, we will make that information available. Now, I know the public, the community wants answers immediately. I want to assure you that the response to this incident by local, state, and federal public safety professionals has been overwhelming. It's been appreciated, and it's been professionally carried out. We want to make sure that we're operating only in facts, and we want to make sure to obtain those facts. From the start of this incident, officials from varying agencies have been on site to maintain the safety of the scene and the integrity of the organization. And we will continue to do so for as long as it takes. It is the state fire marshal who's leading the investigation. So on behalf of the sheriff's office, I cannot comment on the ongoing investigation or the facts related to that specific aspect. And so I appreciate your patience and your understanding as far as that goes. Again, thank you for being here.
Next, I'd like to introduce Esparta Fire Chief Curtis Lawrence.
All right, good morning everybody. Again, I've said this many times, but I appreciate all of your guys' patience with us, and I appreciate all of your guys' involvement in waiting for these press briefings. I want to also start off by echoing from me personally and on behalf of our agency, our condolences to everybody that was infected by this tragic incident. You know, we are all human too as we go through this, and we do understand. We do sympathize with the families of the lost here. So again, I just want to offer our condolences to the family and everybody impacted. With that, I'd like to give some operational updates since the last time we talked. It's been a moment. Over the last several days, we continue to have additional responders arriving on scene every day in different varying capacities from our local, state, and federal partners. As mentioned before, recovery efforts were our primary mission, and those recovery efforts have been for the most part completed. And we continue to work in the area to mitigate the hazards of the undetonated explosives. Throughout the last 2 days, we've been gathering those types of devices and conducting burn-off operations, as we're calling them, to immediately remediate those hazards and issues right here in the area. As mentioned earlier as well, the Office of the State Fire Marshal Bomb and Arson Unit, again, early in the incident, we recognized the magnitude and the complexity of this incident and knew it was beyond our department's capacity, and we've asked for their assistance. They have graciously done that, and they're here with their local, state, and federal partners, and are continuing to do that. They're continuing to support the coroner in their operation and in their investigation. You know, continuing in as we start moving through this, I'm going to say recovery and restoration portion. You know, the last several days have been very fire department recovery type of procedures and operations going on, and we're slowly transitioning into a law enforcement based incident. Our agency is going to remain here, and we're going to stay supportive of all the partners that are here assisting us, because we're very thankful for that. We couldn't make it through an incident like this without them. We're going to stay in unified command and assisting them, but we are slowly transitioning into more of a law enforcement presence and investigation. I did speak with the Office of the State Fire Marshal prior to coming up here to give you what information I could on that, and really the comment is, again, they are working with their local, state, and federal partners and assisting in every which way they can. Given that it is an ongoing investigation, they don't have any comments, but they're committed to assisting as they have been, and we're appreciative of that. And with that, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for being patient with us, and I really want to express personally my condolences to the family, and I hope that we can continue to get the information to them that's going to help them move into the recovery and start to be able to grieve appropriately. And thank you guys.
All right, well, at this time, I'm going to open up questions, and I will direct your questions appropriately to the appropriate representative. I do want to note that we will not be doing pull-away interviews at this time. And also be aware that we will not be answering any questions regarding permits. More of that will come about later. Go ahead.
Hi. Can you talk to the facts that we found out that a Yolo County Sheriff's lieutenant owns the property, his home was destroyed, as well as a volunteer firefighter owns a fireworks business linked to the same address?
Again, regarding those details, we don't have exact details on that yet. We don't have all the information, and we want to make sure we have all that information prior to just going out with something. So we'll have that information at a later time.
Are those two individuals still employed with the respective agencies?
At this time, I don't have that information.
Would you call that a conflict of interest?
I don't have that right now, but that's something that I will regard, I will go back to our staff and discuss that.
Have you been in contact with those two individuals, the sheriff's deputy and the volunteer firefighter?
That'd be a question. I have not personally, no.
And are they being interviewed? Are you able to comment, Chief, on that, whether you've been speaking with the firefighter and whether you've asked him appropriate questions, or is law enforcement asking him questions?
So again, at the beginning, I mean, from day one, we recognized that this incident was beyond our capacity. And so with that, we are not doing the investigation. The Office of the State Fire Marshal is doing that investigation. And I'm not going to comment, or I can't comment because I don't know, what their communications with that individual has been. And whether this is right, wrong, or indifferent, I will tell you that, at the beginning of the incident, I did have contact with our volunteer firefighter because he is a brother in our service and somebody in our community. And so, yeah, we have had, support conversations with him just to make sure that him and his family were okay. But outside of that, as far as the investigation goes, no, we are avoiding any kind of conflict with that. And that is also why, again, this is the State Fire Marshal is the lead on this investigation and not.
We'll continue to listen into this update from Northern California on that deadly fireworks facility explosion. Meantime, here on Live Impact News, we're going to pivot a bit farther south within the state of California. We have California Governor Gavin Newsom speaking now. It has been 6 months. The community is marking 6 months since those devastating LA fires. Let's listen in now live.
I want to thank Supervisor Barger. Will speak all of them in a brief moment, but I wanted just to briefly sort of mark this moment, this 6-month anniversary, with a very short presentation to sort of highlight foundationally where we've been. I think it goes without saying that disasters test us. And I think at this moment it's appropriate to remind ourselves that there are people that are not here. 30 lives that were lost because of this tragedy. And I should just highlight, we're Pasadena Community College. We're grateful that we're here. Altadena in particular, a special community. Altadena, the average life lost was 77 years old. You had great-grandparents, not just grandparents. You had a father and a son that died. You had brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles that perished in this fire. 30 lives lost. It, I hope, puts in perspective the moment we're in. And I hope it also puts in perspective how blessed, Bishop, we are to be here, to be members, many of you, of this remarkable community, and to have the opportunity to be part of this recovery. Recovery, after all, is what defines us. It's not what happens to us, it's how we respond to what happens to us. And it's that response that I wanted to just briefly highlight here today. As was noted, the Bishop, one of the beneficiaries of some debris removal, this has been the fastest fire recovery in terms of debris removal in modern history. I'll remind you that this process began to unfold the second phase of debris removal after the hazardous debris removal was removed within 30 days after the initiation of the fire. That second phase began on February 11th. I'd, by the way, be remiss if I didn't highlight, in particular, Bob Fenton, who's here from FEMA, who understandably deserves that recognition. Thank you, Bob. No one better. He committed to a 30-day process in partnership with the EPA on the first phase, and concurrently was working to advance in partnership with the U.S. Army Corps Phase 2, beginning just in February 11th. This process that unfolded over the course of the last 6 months is put, I think, in perspective as it relates to this slide. Over 2,000 homes per month that debris was removed. Put that in perspective. You can look, Lahaina, of course, is unique in every way because of the difficulties of taking debris off an island, but you can compare just fire very familiar to many Angelenos, the Woolsey fire, 132 homes per month. Compare that to 2,000 homes per month, 15x faster in terms of that overall debris removal. 12,048 homes, not structures and not damaged, but completely destroyed, 12,000 homes. We had an opt-in process that people, I think, very familiar with, this ROE process, a right to entry. There were just less than 2,000 people that opted out, which I think is extraordinary. At the time, we anticipated a substantially higher number of people would do it themselves. But the overwhelming majority had confidence in the work that Bob and his team and the Office of Emergency Services in partnership with our Army Corps, and they opted in, 9,576. You can see the number of parcels cleared. Just a few hundred haven't been cleared, and they're in the process, as we speak, of being cleared. All told, 96% now of all the debris has been removed. We could say it's substantially complete. A few hundred parcels that are in the process, in some cases, of just getting the final notification, a few hundred that are in the process of actually having to go through a little bit of extra work. And this was all advanced because of the support that we were afforded, the confidence that we were provided early on with President Biden, who was here at the ignition of the first flames of this fire. It was a stone throw away from the fire Palisades and the Eaton fire scar, and he stayed in town to secure that 100% reimbursement, 100% support from the federal government. Said the answer is yes before we even asked the question. And I just want to honor that, because that's something I assure you we can't take for granted. And I just want to thank President Joe Biden for being there and initiating this process and affording us the opportunity to be in the position we are today. Thank you. The baton was passed to the Trump administration, and they have honored that commitment. As a consequence of that, we went through phase 1 and phase 2 with over $2 billion of federal resources invested. We secured an additional $3+ billion. For many of you in this room, those that couldn't be in this room today, $3 billion of SBA loans. Those are the businesses and nonprofits. Over $370 million in direct assistance that also has been provided. $3+ billion specifically has been committed in that process. $2.5 billion was committed. Members of the legislature that are here, to the Speaker and the Pro Tem, I want to thank you for your leadership and stewardship. I want to thank the members of the LA delegation in particular, many that are here today, members of the Assembly and the State Senate. I want to thank all of the work that was done on congressional delegation to support the efforts at the state level. In particular, $2.5 billion was secured as part of our special session to support relief here in the burn scars and community. We advanced 23 executive orders, specifically around accelerating permitting, to work more collaboratively with state and local partners to advance to suspend regulations, protections. A small community meeting just a moment ago only reinforced the anxiety that renters are feeling that are still haven't been able to find permanent housing, or at least permanent extended housing, are still living month to month, in some cases week to week, and the importance of having secured tenant protections for those individuals is not lost on me, particularly after that update meeting a moment ago. We extended property tax deadlines. We did some mortgage forbearance. We did some other things that I'll highlight in a moment. We continue to do more in partnership with the cities and counties, but also in partnership with the private sector and JPL and NASA and the folks that we partnered to address some of the contamination issues and air and soil monitoring. The work that UCLA has done and Loyola Marymount has done. Purdue University, also part of a consortium of folks supported by LA County Health, addressing water, air, and soil monitoring. We got all 9 water systems reactivated. Head of our EPA is here. I thank her and her team for an outstanding job. We were very mindful, and we continue to be vigilant not naive about coastal issues, and the beaches, and ongoing monitoring around contamination, making sure it's safe, not just for people, but for marine life and the like, continues. We advanced a lot of innovative strategies and created the first of its kind digital disaster recovery center. We've never advanced a digital recovery center in our state's history that came from an innovative mindset as it relates to our engagement, not a substitute for in-person, but a complement. We created the first direct democracy engagement tool, Engage California, to hear from the community, a community-led effort, bottom up, not top down. It's not the state, the federal government talking about what comes next, informed at the local level by local community. We put a new website up, ca.gov/LA Fires, which is all around accountability, transparency, and data, trying to connect to all of the resources that are being made available by the cities, county, the federal government, and local nonprofits. But I wanted just to briefly, and I'll close and turn this over to the supervisor. I want to compliment the county. I want to compliment Supervisor Barger. I want to compliment the work that they just put forward earlier today around a new blueprint moving forward to rebuilding. As the U.S. Army Corps demobilizes, we are now entering the next phase, and again, an historic pace. And we have to maintain that same mindset, that same intentionality, the same deliberative focus. And we have to be, I think, mindful with humility and grace of the magnitude of what is being asked of us going forward. But one thing that is critical is that we go forward together. And I want to thank the supervisor for her partnership in particular and allowing the state to work collaboratively on the LA blueprint to maintain a cohesive framework where the state's plan and the county plan have come together. And that plan prioritizes many of the things that many of you have asked and tasked us to do. And that's around the issue of financial issues associated with those that are underinsured, are uninsured, the financial stress and anxiety, those gaps that need to be addressed to get people back home, to talk about affordability in designs and pre-approval of designs, to talk about bulk purchasing of materials, to hire builders and to leverage their strength, to look at logistics as it relates to where we are able to literally store many of those materials. Obviously doing more on permitting, and we're mindful more work has to be done on permitting. And I'll briefly highlight that in a moment as I turn it over to the supervisors. But issues around permitting are foundational, as well as addressing public infrastructure. If you're going to come back home, you want to come back home knowing that a lot of the infrastructure has been secured, that you are able to turn on the gas, you're able to turn on the water, you got the sewage system that you can connect to, you've got the internet that you can connect to as well. How do we provide for a workforce? We're here at Pasadena Community College. I want to thank the president of the Pasadena Community College. We learned a lot from Santa Rosa Community College from the Tubbs fire and their workforce development program. Pasadena Community College is replicating that and taking it to the next level. Again, lessons learned, opportunities to do more, train more, and advance a more comprehensive focus to make sure we have enough workers to advance this cause. The reference to California Jobs First references the resources that Jobs First is putting in to those partnerships. And
all right, folks, Vanessa Rufus here in the Live Impact News studio. We're going to break away from California Governor Gavin Newsom giving an update on 6 months since the devastating and deadly LA fires. We'll get back to this update as soon as we can. Meantime, we did promise an update out of Hill Country in Texas, an area that has been devastated as well, but for a different reason. We've been following in recent days the flooding out there. And as we mentioned, we do have a live report coming to us. We have Matt Doherty with our affiliate out in Texas, course, you're just outside of that San Antonio area, joining us from hard-hit Kerrville, where I understand you're just now getting some updates from emergency officials out there. What can you tell us about the latest as far as who they might still be looking for, where unfortunately the death toll is standing at this time, and what's left as far as rescue and recovery for folks out there?
Yeah, Vanessa, this search is still well underway right now. There's 10 kids as of last update that are still missing. One camp counselor from that camp, that's that side of it. We heard earlier this morning at least 80 bodies have been found so far. We're here at this command center. We got here about half an hour ago. This is our first time that we've come here. We've been over the past couple of days kind of touring the devastation, watching the search on the ground. I'll tell you, one of the concerns that some of these search crews are sharing with us today is the weather. So we are on day 5. This is the 5th consecutive day that the Hill Country, specifically this area, has been on a flood watch. So they're really concerned that perhaps in the next hour, 2, 3 hours, storms could start coming again and potentially cause what they're calling catastrophic flooding. Hopefully that isn't going to happen again, but that was an issue that thwarted some of the search efforts yesterday when some of the search crews in some of the hardest hit areas down on the banks of the river had to evacuate suddenly just because the river started rising again.
Yeah, really scary stuff to see. And of course, all of us, elsewhere in the country have been thinking of your community out there and just really hoping for the best outcome. I understand that you're native to the Houston area. And so I'm just kind of curious, someone who is from Texas and that particular kind of area of Texas. I mean, what can you say as far as, how often something like this happens? I mean, this looks absolutely devastating, but from what I understand, it's not completely unheard of in the entire historic context of this area of Texas.
No, I mean it's not. If you read the books and you watch the movies and stuff, you know that this is something that the people here deal with. I will tell you, yes, I am from Houston, live in Houston, but my family has a ranch not too far from here in the Hill Country, and I grew up there every summer basically, and I'll tell you, never had any concerns about the flooding or anything like that. An interesting point, when you talk about the history of this, I know it's kind of loud right now. We have a helicopter landing right now. That's the lieutenant governor in that chopper there. He was going for a tour. When you talk about the history, my dad pointed this out to me the other day. So in James Michener's book, Texas, he writes a lot about the floods and how the early settlers had to deal with that. And I'm not totally sure how the ground is in your area, but in Houston, there's several layers of topsoil and clay, and they're able to absorb a lot of that water when you get that heavy saturation in one area for a long period of time. Here, it's very different. They have a couple layers of topsoil, but then under that, it's limestone. So it's my understanding that once the ground is saturated, the water doesn't have anywhere to go, and because of the topography here and the hills, it just if you're down by the banks of the river, you're at the bottom of the soup bowl, and that's where it all goes.
Wow. Really interesting insights. I'd never heard, it described that way, that area. So, I mean, I think that really does kind of give us a little extra context to the situation and how the weather impacts can, turn like that when you have relentless, rain and you have the flooding that just starts to take hold. So I heard you mention the fact that there are still flooding alerts for the area. How concerned are officials, in your conversations with them today? Do they really feel like this is going to hamper things? Are they concerned that this might make the situation even worse? What are they telling you?
That's the thing, they don't know, and they're I think a little bit leery about making any types of predictions right now. When you see the emergency alerts come up on our phones or whatever, I mean, they sound alarming. I spoke with some of the locals in one of the harder hit areas yesterday. It's a town called Hunt, and he was asking me, what are we supposed to think? Does this alert mean that it's going to be a flood where there's going to be 2 inches of rain? Or are we talking about 15 feet plus coming at us with a surge? There's no more information other than get to high ground potential catastrophic flooding. The language makes it sound very alarming in these alerts, and nobody knows what to think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be watching to see, from afar and thinking of y'all, and hopefully everything will turn out okay. I did want to, ask you about what you're hearing from folks who are, in the communities. Maybe if you or some of your colleagues out there have been going on the ground and speaking to the community members themselves, are they telling you, what they need? And I ask in the context of, we have groups from our area here in Charlotte who are actually en route to Texas right now to try to help. So I'm just curious if you're hearing, hey, we need water, hey, we need donations of this, XYZ. Is any of that kind of, top of mind, as far as the donations that you're able to tell us?
I arrived on Saturday, and so this happened overnight on the 4th of July, which was the day before. So when I got to the scene in one of these devastated areas, I mean, there was so much food and so many supplies and people coming and bringing things. So I can tell you anecdotally, just being there, they look to be in good shape in the area that I was looking at. The official response to that will be from some of these elected officials are to go, number one, to the Salvation Army primarily, and also they have, and I don't have the website off the top of my head right now, but they have a website set up that has some of these vetted organizations that will be, I guess, purchasing some of these supplies and items that people might need on their own, but they're recommending monetary funds as the best way that people can help right now most efficiently, I guess.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Makes sense for sure. I guess as far as going through the rest of the day, is there anything that you're keeping an eye out for that we should know? For example, you referenced the fact that there was a helicopter that was going by and you thought that was the lieutenant governor. Are you expecting any new briefings coming in the next several hours, or any formal updates that have been scheduled?
Yes, so that's what everybody's going to be waiting on, is the daily update that they're going to have tonight at 6 o'clock here Central Time. So during this daily update, what they're going to tell us is basically all the progress that these search crews have made throughout the day. There's still a lot of people who are unaccounted for, a lot of families back in Houston who still have relatives who are missing, and they haven't found them, they haven't identified them. So tonight is when we're going to get, that latest death toll, and also the number of unidentified bodies that they have not been able to match a name with, and also how many people that they know for sure that they've been able to confirm who are still out there missing. I'll tell you one, before I left Houston on Friday to come out here, I interviewed a woman in Houston whose sister, who's about 60 years old, her husband, their adult son, his wife, and their 5-year-old little girl had come out to the river to go camping in their RVs for the 4th of July weekend, and they're still missing. They're still missing. As far as we know, 5 years old, the 5-year-old girl, she will be possibly the youngest victim out of all of this. It's horrific.
Yeah, I mean, just the scope and just some of the personal stories too, that we're hearing out of this. It breaks your heart. And once again, we are thinking of you all there in Texas. And Matt Doherty, we appreciate your reporting. Anything you want to leave us with before we wrap things up? I know you're busy.
No, I think we covered it pretty much. It's just, it's as a reporter, when you get down to this scene and you talk to these families, and I mean, it just hits. You know what I mean? It's these are, little girls, little girls who are asleep in their bunk beds at camp. It's just indescribable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, one of the headlines that's striking folks, so hard, is just hearing about that girls' camp, and whether you're a parent and you've sent your kids off to camp, or, you're a person who has gone to a camp before and you remember going away and the excitement that brought, and to know that this happened for them. I mean,
Right.
it breaks your heart for sure. All right. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here on Live Impact News. Let us know if you hear anything else. Otherwise, we'll let you go to gather more information. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Vanessa.
All right. Stay safe. And folks here on Live Impact News, be sure we'll continue to bring you the latest out of Texas's Hill Country. Once again, thinking of those families who are awaiting answers right now, as some folks do unfortunately remain unaccounted for. And sadly, that death toll is getting close to 90 tonight. More updates to come. We want to, of course, as we mentioned, bring you back to California. We were listening in just before we popped over to Texas to this update on 6 months since the LA fires. And we were previously hearing California Governor Gavin Newsom speaking. We've got other officials, it looks like, who are taking to the podium now. So we'll listen back here and we'll jump in with any new breaking updates.
Step of the way they have been collaborative and collective in our approach on this recovery. And to Senator Padilla and Congresswoman Chu and Congressman Sherman for always fighting for us in Washington, and to Senate Pro Tem Mike McGuire for always fighting for us in Sacramento. Our recovery effort has been truly an all-hands-on-deck approach at every level of government. And we're here today because 6 months ago, our city was hit by a massive firestorm that brought hurricane-force winds on the heels of months of drought, devastating the Palisades and sweeping through Malibu and Altadena with catastrophic results. And in those early days in January, many wondered how
All right, folks, thanks for bearing with us. We're having some issues with that feed about the California wildfires update. Once again, if you can believe it, it's been 6 months since those devastating and deadly fires out there. So we had heard previously the governor talking about some of the progress that they've made in recovering, but also the work that's left to do on that front. We will try to get back to that feed if we can. I think we've done a little bit of I'm watching it, a reset. I think it just froze again. I'm just looking at the preview monitor, so just kind of bear with us. We apologize again for the issues. Yeah, it does look like it's frozen. All right, so we will probably pivot to another topic in the meantime as we await that feed to come back. How do we feel about MacArthur Park? Does that feel like a good shot, you know, in the sense of like, I think that one looks, yeah. So this was something that actually we had for you towards the tail end of the last hour. We've been keeping an eye on this feed, and it looks like there's quite a bit more activity since when we last left it. Maybe even a live report coming soon. So this comes to our affiliate out there. This is a different part of LA. We know that there has been a lot of activity as there are federal agents out in this area, and it looks like traffic is being stopped at this point. Do you have any audio from this feed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is from, this is KNBC's in Los Angeles. This is their direct feed.
Okay, well, let's listen in. Let's see if we can get some updates here. And if we can bring you back to the wildfire update, as we mentioned, we certainly will. Thank you for bearing with us here on Live Impact News.
It looks like traffic is also being affected here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is moving northwest along Wilshire Boulevard right now, and it looks like there's standstill traffic behind these two National Guard vehicles. So anybody in this area, you definitely want to avoid MacArthur Park. This is going to be Wilshire Boulevard just off of Alvarado. You can see the traffic here on Alvarado as well. People trying to turn onto Wilshire Boulevard, and crowds, I mean pedestrians standing on every street corner here. And it looks to me like everyone standing out here has their phones out, and I'm seeing on my phone in the helicopter more and more video from the ground being posted. So we're curious to see what kind of engagement, what kind of face-off, if any, we'll see between people on the ground and these federal agents and these National Guard troops.
All right, and we do want to remind our viewers that we are making calls, but right now we're not sure why these agents are there or what kind of operation is taking place. But do know that we have a team, our news team is working to gather more information about what exactly is going on here at MacArthur Park. But we do know that witnesses have been telling us that at least 100 federal agents are out there right now. You see that traffic is being affected there on Wilshire Boulevard, again in the MacArthur Park area. So like Julia was saying, avoid the area. And along with those agents, we did see that Mayor Karen Bass was also there. So a lot of activity. Again, this is an area that's heavily populated by immigrants. Julia, you were saying, a lot of businesses, but also apartment buildings in this area.
That's right. And you see people running now. Let me see if I can zoom in more with the camera and get a sense of who's running and what direction they're going in. I wonder if they're chasing people now, but I was wondering if they would be targeting a couple of these street vendors that we usually see parked along Wilshire near Alvarado, right by this park. I don't know if that appears to be the case. We don't know if they're trying to detain immigrants suspected of being undocumented. I don't know what the operation here is, but you can see the crowds of not only pedestrians, these onlookers, but federal agents.
And again, Julia, all this activity comes a month after all of these operations started taking place. That Home Depot, and then again that Ambiance Apparel in downtown LA. So a lot of concern. I'm imagining a lot of people are, they're concerned. They're nervous. They're fearing for anybody who they know is undocumented at this point because they don't necessarily know what's going to happen. So again, we're trying to gather more information. We have very, very limited information, but all we know is what you are also seeing here from our camera here on News Chopper 4 and what we've been mentioning, which is what witnesses have been telling us, right? That at least 100 federal agents are there in the MacArthur Park area. Again, Mayor Karen Bass was also there. Not sure exactly if she's still in that area, but we did see her there as well.
Yeah, and Annabelle, you mentioned the fear. It is very triggering for people to hear about this kind of thing going on. What's different this time, I think, is just the sheer volume of federal agents we see on the ground and how long they've been out here. There have been a couple of raids where we have launched in the helicopter, and by the time we were able to get on scene, there was nothing left to see. The agents in question had cleared out already, but you see here, dozens, probably close to 100 people on the ground. And then these crowds, I think many of them were prepared. They must have been tipped off ahead of time this was going to happen, because we see activists here holding up signs. I do see somebody on the ground holding up a loudspeaker. So you see more and more people converging here. This is on Wilshire Boulevard, just past Alvarado. And that face-off I was talking about, you see people on the ground, pedestrians now facing off with these agents who appear to be getting back in their vehicles. That black van you see speeding off. And then this vehicle here, I believe federal agents are in there, but you saw on the ground here earlier people coming up with cameras as well. We have a ground crew working to document this, but not a lot of information right now about what type of operation this was.
And you see a lot of people still standing around there. You still see, from one of the other cameras that I'm looking at here, one of our ground crews. I'm not sure if we can put that a side-by-side camera here of Julia's camera and then the ground crew that we have down here or out there. But we see also, there it is. We see a lot of activity as well, just people just standing around, but approaching some of these vehicles and taking just recording them as we see it. But you see that, all these people are just holding up their cell phones as these troops are driving by in the middle of Wilshire Boulevard. Again, this is all happening at MacArthur Park. And again, we're being told that at least 100 federal agents are there right now. A lot of fear, Julia. People running, we see them right there.
Yeah, and we see these vehicles driving off now. This is going to be north-northwest along Wilshire Boulevard. I don't know what their final destination is. We're looking out the window, checking to see where they stop and if they're going to be conducting any raids. I mean, that's typically what happens when we see large groups of these federal agents converging on a location. I think that's what these activists on the ground, these protesters, if you will, that's what they might be fearing. But we haven't seen anybody actually being taken into custody yet. There was that brief face-off between the agents and protesters, but now they're moving along. And again, we don't know what their final destination is. You see some people running ahead of these vehicles. I don't know if they were tipped off about the final destination, about where they might be heading to next, and if they're racing to keep up with them. But we're going to try and follow along up here in News Chopper 4 as they drive up Wilshire Boulevard.
You know, and again, this, we don't know if raids are actually happening right now. We just see that they're there. There's a heavy presence there, a lot of activity in that area. But again, this just brings back so many memories of everything that people have already experienced since the beginning, since that, what was it, June 7th. When all of this activity started happening. Michael Brownlee is joining me here at the desk.
You know, Julia, I was watching up from upstairs. We got the live shot here from News Chopper 4. What I find coincidental and worth asking when we get the chance, the Mayor Bass in that particular area at that particular time, do we know if she had business in the area already? Was she tipped off? I mean, do we know the circumstances at this point?
No, we do not know what Mayor Bass was doing in the area. I don't know if she had other business here or if she heard about what was happening and then came to check it out like we did. But I mentioned earlier to Annabelle, quite a few people on the ground are live streaming this on their phones.
Yeah.
So this is playing out on several social media feeds. It's likely that Mayor Karen Bass, who's been front and center on this issue, and you can see this vehicle, center of our screen, moving through this intersection. This is now going to be West 6th. They turned off of Wilshire Boulevard onto Lafayette, and we don't know where they're headed. But it is likely the mayor's team heard about this, and they came out here just to get a first-hand look at what appears to be one of the largest federal operations tied to these ongoing immigration raids since this activity started exactly 1 month ago.
And we have seen time and time again on social media, advocacy groups here in the area, you know, and we see their posts when there is federal agents within a particular area. So to see the number of folks on the ground already isn't something that, you know, actually it's something that's likely because we've seen it time and time again, and I think we will continue to see it. Seeing these large groups in the areas with these federal agents, again, with you, like you said, Julia, taking their phones and they're streaming this live on social media. So this is part of the protocol these days.
It is. I mean, the coverage, not only that we deliver, but the coverage provided by people on the ground who are very much a part of the community and personally impacted by this. And then you have to wonder, Michael, about the snowball effect as well, because the more people who hear about this kind of thing happening in the moment, the more likely additional crowds are to turn out and join the demonstration. And then, of course, when that happens, tensions tend to escalate, and then that can lead to more of a face-off or a clash with federal agents who, of course, say they're just here to do their jobs.
And Julia, do we know these white vans, do you see any type of marking on these white vans?
No, I don't, Annabelle. This is what I noticed when we first got overhead on Wilshire Boulevard, right by Alvarado. I believe these white vans are part of this federal operation. They're not marked, so we don't know if this is CBP. We don't know if this is ICE, but they're traveling in a group. And they do appear to be part of this federal operation. Again, we haven't seen anybody being detained yet. We haven't seen anybody being pulled into these vans, but they do look like the vehicles that had been used during previous raids.
Julia, just so I get a lay of the land here, we see these white vans on the move. How far away from MacArthur Park are we? That's where we initially spotted them with your coverage and, of course, with Annabelle's coverage. So proximity-wise, how far are we away from the park?
We're very close. They were turning circles. They're now on South Rampart Boulevard. This is going to be just off of 4th Street. It's probably less than 1 mile from the park.
Okay.
So, the people who are on the ground following this, I did see a couple of them running down this street. I don't know if they caught up when this turned onto Lafayette and then 6th. But again, they're driving down South Rampart Boulevard right now. And I imagine activists are going to be close behind once they figure out where they're going.
Yeah, activists going to be close behind, reminding people not to say anything. Again, if they have kids, they want to designate a trusted adult, and that's been one of the recommendations. Families should identify and legally authorize a trusted adult who can care for their children if their parents were to be detained. So again, these are just some of the things that activists have been telling people. We know a lot of people work in this particular area. They live in this area. We're on summer break, Julia, so a lot of kids are hanging out outside as well.
And you have to think about the kind of fear that creates. I know the LAUSD superintendent, he did a number of interviews in past weeks talking about how the level of attendance actually dipped significantly after these raids started. People have actually been afraid to send their children to school. But now, of course, they're out on summer vacation. And I imagine on a hot day like today, midday, the park might have been a gathering spot for kids just looking to enjoy their summer.
And we talk about this time and time again. We don't know at this point whether anyone has been physically detained here, Julia, but just the optics alone, and based on what you've just talked about, there is a considerable amount of fear with folks within this particular community and, of course, communities spread out Southern California.
And you think about the types of locations, Michael, that have now been targeted. I mean, a park today, we've heard of raids happening at churches. It's not just workplaces. It's everywhere. And you see these vehicles now driving past homes. I mean, these are neighborhoods. These are communities that they're now driving through. And the fear this sparks, that has ripple effects far and wide.
And again, so many people aware now of what is happening around MacArthur Park there. What street are we on, Julia?
This is still going to be Rampart Boulevard. This is now North Rampart Boulevard. They're driving northeast. And let me get you the next intersection here. They're not moving very quickly. Yeah. And I would estimate it's probably a row of 10 to 12 vehicles. This is going to be North Rampart and Temple Street.
It really doesn't seem as if they have a final destination at this point. You said they're within a mile of MacArthur Park where they were staged. We saw activists down there as well. They are now on the move. A number of those white vans, along with what we see some those in fatigues and garb down there as well. No final destination at this point. They continue to sort of circle the area of MacArthur Park?
Yeah, they're going to be north of the park now, and I wonder if they might make moves to get onto the freeway. This is right by the 101 freeway, okay. And I'm wondering if their plan initially was to conduct some kind of raid, but when they got to the park, if they weren't able to do that, they're now turning back and perhaps heading back to the federal building. But my pilot is looking out the front window, and it looks to him like they might be getting onto the 101 freeway now.
Here's the thing. We were talking about Mayor Karen Bass being there. She's also set to be speaking in a few more minutes in Pasadena to talk about the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire, along with Governor Gavin Newsom. Not sure if how that's going to all play out.
All right, folks. So there you have it, the coverage from MacArthur Park. In the Los Angeles area, as you saw, a lot of protesting response to federal agents. You kind of heard some of the questions that lingered there. The fact that they don't really know the nature of these operations, where those agents might be going next. We will let you know LA Mayor Karen Bass is expected to do an update later this evening, so we do hope to bring that to you in its entirety here on Live Impact News Evening Edition, which starts at 7 o'clock. We want to take you back, though. You know, we've been listening in. Oh, okay. We've got the stocks pulled up, folks. We are seeing some activity as we get close to the closing bell. Unfortunately, not a great day across major indices. We've got the Dow down close to 500 points. We've also got S&P down close to 1%. It's down 51 points. NASDAQ around 200 points in the red today. This is, as you might expect, there we go, live look at the big board. This is the Dow, as we mentioned, close to negative 500 points on the day, related to tariff